Hey guys, welcome to Wide Awake Horror Extended. Just want to say thanks for listening in. Here we've got some crazy catfish horror stories. Now, if you're new here, please smash that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the stories, please smash that like button. Now, let's get on to the stories.
I still remember the exact second my stomach dropped, because before that moment, everything felt normal in that boring late night way that makes you forget to be careful. It was one of those nights where the room feels too quiet and your phone becomes the loudest thing in your live. The glow from the screen was bouncing off the empty energy drink cans on my desk. I was thinking about how weird it was that I was nervous over a video call with someone I had been messaging for months. Not excited nervous, not crush nervous, but that low buzzing feeling like something was slightly off, and I kept ignoring it. We met on a random app that wasn't meant for anything serious. I wasn't looking for anything either. It just started with jokes, then long messages, and staying up way too late. She had a normal name, normal photos, nothing that screamed fake. She didn't ask for money, didn't rush anything, didn't push weird topics. She was just there. Every day. Every night. I started checking my phone without thinking, like it was muscle memory. She said she lived in a small town near the coast. I live in the middle of nowhere surrounded by warehouses and half-abandoned malls. Our schedules lined up weirdly perfect. When I couldn't sleep, she was always awake. When I had nothing to do, she always replied fast. I noticed it, but I brushed it off because I wanted to. Months went by like that. No calls, just messages. Voice notes once in a while, short and casual. Nothing strange about them either. The idea for the video call was hers. She said it felt weird not seeing each other after all that time. I agreed, but the second the call was scheduled, my anxiety kicked in. I cleaned my robe even though no one would see most of it. I changed shirts 3 times. I sat there waiting, staring at the screen like it might judge me. When the call connected, I felt relieved for about 5 seconds. Her face loaded in clear enough, sitting in a softly lit room. She looked like her pictures. Same hair, same small mole near her eye. She smiled, waved, did all the normal things someone does when a call starts. It felt real. I relaxed back into my chair and let myself believe I had been overthinking. The first few minutes felt fine. She moved naturally, nodded, looked down, and back up. The audio was a little delayed, but not enough to seem broken. I figured it was just bad connection. I didn't think too hard about it. I never do when I should. Then small things started stacking up in my head. Not red flags, just little paper cuts. She never interrupted me. Never reacted too quickly. When I leaned forward, she leaned forward a second later. When I laughed, she smiled a beat too late. I told myself it was lag. I told myself I was tired. I leaned closer to the screen and squinted a little. The background behind her didn't change at all. No shadows moving. No light flicker. It looked like a paused photo with a person layered on top. Again, I told myself I was being stupid. The moment that changed everything was dumb and impulsive. I don't even know why I did it. I suddenly yelled her name, loud enough that my voice echoed in my room. Not playful, not joking, just a sharp, sudden shout. Nothing happened. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't even pause. She kept smiling, kept nodding, kept doing the same slow movements she had been doing since the call started. My name didn't register on her face at all. It was like sound didn't exist on her end. My heart started racing so hard it felt like it was shaking my chest. I leaned back, then forward again, watching closely. Every movement she made started to feel looped. The same head tilt, the same smile, the same blink pattern. I started waving my hand in front of the camera, fast and erratic. She didn't react, not even a delayed one. I felt sick. Not scared yet, just deeply wrong. Like realizing you've been walking the wrong direction for miles and no one told you. I muted my mic and just watched. I read her movements like a pattern. Every 15 seconds, she brushed her hair back. Every 20, she nodded. Every 30, she smiled a little wider. It was a recording. Not a glitch. Not lag. A clean, smooth recording playing right in front of me. I ended the call with shaking hands. The screen went dark and my reflection stared back at me, pale and wide-eyed. I sat there for a long time, phone in my lap, trying to breathe. A message popped up almost immediately. She asked if my connection dropped. That was it. Nothing about hearing me. Nothing about the sudden end. Just a calm message like the call went exactly as planned. I didn't reply. I checked her profile again. All the photos suddenly looked wrong. Too clean. Too consistent. Same lighting in every picture. Same angles. I did a reverse image search, my hands sweating so badly I have almost dropped my phone. Nothing came up. That scared me more than if it had. Over the next few days, I stopped sleeping. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. She kept messaging like nothing happened. Same tone. Same timing. Always there. I started testing it. I sent messages at random hours. She replied instantly every time. I sent nonsense sentences. She replied that they made sense. One night, I typed that I knew the call was fake. I stared at the screen for a long time before sending it. Her reply came slower than usual, almost a full minute. She said the call was real and maybe my app bugged out. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The typing indicator showed up and stayed there for a long time before that message. Longer than usual, like someone was thinking hard. I went back through our old messages, scrolling for hours. Patterns started popping out. Phrases she reused. Jokes that came back word for word weeks apart. Responses that didn't quite match what I said, but were close enough to slide by. I couldn't stop digging. I checked the timestamps. Always active, never asleep, never busy. It was like messaging a wall that knew how to sound human. A week later, I got another call request. No warning. No message first. Just the incoming call screen lighting up my room. I didn't answer. It rang again the next night and the next. On the fourth night, curiosity won. I answered. Same video, same smile, same loop. This time, I didn't panic. I watched closely, counted blinks, tracked the pattern. It was the exact same recording as before. Same hair movement, same nod timing, same everything. While it played, my phone buzzed with a message from her asking if I could see her. That was when it fully hit me. The messages in the video weren't connected. Not in real time. Someone or something was running both separately like a script. I blocked her on everything after that. Deleted the app. Wiped my phone. For a while, I felt stupid for being scared. I told myself it was just some messed up prank or a bot with too much effort behind it. Then a month later, I got a follow request on a different app. New name, no photos, just a message preview that said it was nice seeing me again on video. I didn't open it. I deleted the app instead. Even now, sometimes late at night, I think about that call, about how real it felt until it didn't, about how easy it was to believe someone was there when they never were. I don't wonder who was behind it anymore. I just know whatever it was didn't need me to answer to keep going. The first weird part was the package. It was a way I already felt watched before it showed up. Like that low pressure feeling you get when you leave your phone face down and still feel it buzzing. I had been talking to him for a while by then, long enough that the messages blended into my day without effort. I would wake up and check, eat and check, fall asleep with the screen glowing near my face. Nothing dramatic, nothing intense, just steady, comfortable, too easy. We met through a comment section on a random video. It moved to messages fast, but not in a rushed way. It felt normal, like how people talk now. Jokes, shared complaints, random late night thoughts that don't mean much until they stack up. He knew the same memes. He typed like someone my age. He didn't push for anything strange. No pressure. No awkward questions. Just attention that felt consistent. He said he worked weird hours. That explained why he was always around. I didn't question it. I live alone in a small rental on the edge of town, the kind of place where delivery drivers sometimes get lost. I told him that once, just complaining. I forgot about it right after. Weeks went by, maybe months. I stopped counting. Some conversations got personal in that quiet way where you don't realize you're oversharing until later. Things about my family, things about past mistakes, things I wouldn't tell people I see in real life. It felt safe because he wasn't real to me yet, just words. He started talking about sending me something small, nothing big, just a surprise. I didn't think much of it. People send gifts all the time. I didn't even remember giving him my address, but when he mentioned the street name, my stomach flipped. I scrolled back and found it buried in a message I'd barely remembered typing. It was casual, like it meant nothing. The package arrived on a Tuesday. No knock. Just sitting there when I opened the door to take out trash. Plain brown box, no logo, no return address. My name printed clean on the label like it came straight from a warehouse. I brought it inside and set it on the counter. Stared at it longer than I should have. I wasn't excited. I wasn't scared. Just confused in that dull way where your brain is waiting to catch up. Inside was a thin stack of paper wrapped in clear plastic. No note, no filler, just paper. I pulled it out and sat down on the floor, back against the cabinet. The first page looked familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. It took a second to register why. It was a transcript of our messages. Not screenshots, not copied and pasted messily. Fully printed pages, clean font, timestamps, usernames removed, everything laid out like a report. My hands started shaking before I fully understood what I was holding. I flipped through the pages fast, then slower. Every message was there, from the first joke to the late-night rambling stuff I barely remembered sending. Even the typos, even the pauses marked by timestamps. Some lines were highlighted. Bright yellow, thick strokes, not random. The highlighted parts were the worst ones. The things I only typed once and never repeated. The stuff about my live, about when I'm usually home, about days I hate leaving the house, about when I feel alone. Things that felt small when typed into a glowing screen. I felt sick, like my body was reacting before my brain could form thoughts. I checked the box again. Nothing else inside. No explanation. No receipt. No message notification on my phone. I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers and opened the app. Our chat was there like always. His last message was sent earlier that morning. Casual. Normal. Nothing about a package. I didn't respond. I went through the transcript again, slower this time. The pages were numbered, organized. Some sections had notes in the margins. Short comments printed in a lighter font. Not handwritten. Printed. Things like important. Remember this. Check later. I dropped the papers like they burned my hands. I spent the rest of the day pacing, checking the door, checking windows, jumping at every sound from outside. I kept thinking someone would message me explaining it, laughing it off, saying it was a joke. Nothing came. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those highlighted lines. Saw my own words staring back at me in yellow-like evidence. The next morning, he messaged like nothing happened. Same tone, same rhythm. Asked how my day was going. I didn't reply. An hour later, another message came in, shorter, checking in. I turned my phone face down and tried to distract myself. Cleaned, reorganized drawers. Anything to stop thinking. By the evening, curiosity turned into something sharper. I went back to the box and pulled the papers out again. I noticed something new. The last page wasn't messages. It was a summary. Dates, times, patterns, notes about when I responded fastest, when I went quiet, when I stayed up late. It read like someone studying behavior, not chatting. At the bottom of the page was a line that made my heart slam against my ribs. It mentioned the day the package arrived, noted as confirmation. Confirmation of what I didn't know. My phone buzzed again. I didn't need to look to know it was him. I finally blocked the account. My hands were steady when I did it, like my body had moved past panic into something colder. I deleted the app right after, turned my phone off completely. For a few days, nothing happened. No messages. No packages. I started to think maybe it would fade if I ignored it hard enough. Then a new package arrived. Same box, same printing, this time heavier. I didn't bring it inside right away. I stood on my doorstep staring at it, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the traffic noise. I dragged it in eventually and set it down, but I didn't open it. I already knew what was inside. I opened it later that night, sitting on my bed with all the lights on. Inside was another stack of papers. New transcripts. Messages I had sent after blocking him. Messages I never sent. Thoughts I typed and deleted. Drafts. Unset lines. Things I had reading back and deciding not to share. They were highlighted too. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there staring at proof that something had been watching closer than I ever thought possible. My phone turned on by itself a second later. The screen lit up with a notification from a new account. I didn't open it. I packed a bag that night and left my lid before sunrise. I stayed with a friend across town and didn't explain everything. Just said I felt unsafe. She didn't push. I threw the papers away in different trash bins across the city, ripped them up small, watched them disappear. Weeks have passed now. No more packages. No more messages. But sometimes when I'm alone and my phone buzzes, I think about those highlights, about how my private words looked printed and studied, about how close someone got without ever being in the room. I didn't notice it all at once. That's the part that messes with me the most. It wasn't a big moment or a clear switch. It was just this slow, quiet drift that I only realized after I was already in it. One day my phone felt warm in my hand all the time, buzzing nonstop, and then suddenly it felt cold, like it didn't care if I checked it or not. That's when things started going wrong. I met her in a group chat, tied to a game forum, not a dating thing. Just people posting clips and arguing about dumb stuff. She messaged me first after I made a joke that wasn't even that funny. We moved to private messages without talking about it. It just happened. She typed fast. Always had something to say. Always had a way of saying it that felt different from everyone else. She used certain phrases a lot. Not common ones. Little things she made sound normal. Stuff like saying that's a soft no instead of just no, or calling late night static hours, or saying she was mentally buffering when she needed time. I started using those phrases too without realizing it. It felt like picking up an accent. We messaged every day for months, morning to night, sometimes falling asleep with the app open and waking up to paragraphs waiting. She said she lived a few states away, worked part-time, hated grocery stores, liked empty parking lots at night. Nothing dramatic, nothing that felt fake. Then the reply started slowing down. At first, it was nothing. A few minutes instead of seconds. I figured she was busy. Then it became hours. Whole afternoons would pass with nothing. When she did reply, the messages were shorter, less rambling, less her. I asked if everything was fine in a casual way. She said yeah and moved on. I believed it because I wanted to. I filled the silence with my own messages. Dumb stories, random thoughts, things I knew she would normally react to. She stopped using the phrases. That hit me harder than the slow replies. She stopped saying static hours. Stopped saying soft no. Stopped saying mentally buffering. Her messages still sounded like her, but flatter, like someone copying the outline and missing the details. One night, she didn't reply at all. Not until the next morning. When she did, it was just a sentence. No emoji. No follow-up. I felt stupid for being bothered. People get busy. I knew that, but my gut wouldn't shut up. Then a new message request popped up on a different app. Someone I didn't know. Blank profile, no photo. The message itself made my stomach twist. It used one of her phrases. Not exactly copy, but close enough that my brain snapped to attention. I stared at it for a long time, hoping I was imagining things. I didn't reply. I checked the profile, created recently. No posts. Nothing linking it to her. I brushed it off as coincidence. People pick up phrases online all the time. I even felt embarrassed for thinking it meant something. The next day, another request came in. Different account. Different app. Same phrase again, worded slightly different, like someone testing variations. I felt my chest tighten. I opened my messages with her and scrolled back, read old conversations. The phrases were there, used over and over, things she said before anyone else did. I messaged her and asked if she was talking to other people about the same stuff. She replied hours later with a short answer that didn't really answer anything. The The strangers kept coming. Sometimes it was a follow, sometimes a message request, sometimes just a comment under an old post. Always new accounts. Always nothing personal except the words they used. Phrases that belonged to her. Phrases that felt like inside jokes pulled out into the open. One message used 3 of them in one paragraph. It felt intentional, like someone wanted me to notice. I stopped posting, locked down my profiles, turned off message requests where I could. It didn't matter. They still found ways. Different usernames, different platforms, always the same voice. Her replies got slower. Sometimes a whole day would pass. When she did reply, it was like she didn't remember parts of our past conversations. Things we had talked about in detail suddenly felt new to her. I asked where she had been. She said like stuff. Nothing more. One night I couldn't sleep. My phone lit up with a notification from a number not saved in my contacts. No name. Just a message preview. It used her favorite phrase exactly as she used to type it. Same spacing. Same weird punctuation. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I didn't open it. I turned the phone face down and stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. The next morning, she messaged me like nothing was wrong. No mention of being gone. No mention of the changes. Just a casual check-in. I finally asked her directly if someone else had access to her account. She took longer than ever to reply. When she did, the message felt wrong. Too clean, like it had been edited. After that, her account went quiet. No replies. No status updates. Nothing. The strangers didn't stop. They started using more than just phrases. They referenced things I had only told her. Small stuff. Favorite late night snacks. The way I hated certain sounds. Things that never went public. It felt like being watched through my own memories. One account sent a long message that read like a summary of my habits, when I was usually online, when I disappeared, when I posted and deleted things. It ended with one of her phrases like a signature. I blocked it immediately. Blocked everything that came after. Days later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched her username. Nothing came up. Like it never existed. All our chat history was still there, but her profile photo was gone. Username blank. I sat there scrolling, feeling like I was holding on to something that was already gone. That night, I got one last message. New account. No photo. It didn't use any phrases at first. Just normal words. Almost polite. Halfway through the message, it switched. One of her phrases dropped in casually like it belonged there. Then another. Then another. It felt like someone trying on her voice, getting more confident with each sentence. I didn't reply. I deleted the app, turned my phone off, and left it in another room. I needed silence more than answers. For a while, things calmed down. No messages, no follows. I started to relax, started thinking maybe it was over. Then a comment appeared on an old post I forgot about. Months old, buried. It used a phrase she only said once early on. Something I had forgotten until I saw it again. I deleted the post, deleted the account, wiped everything. I did not know what happened to her. I did not know if she was real or if she ever was. I just know that her words did disappear when she did. They spread. They multiplied. They came back to me from strangers who shouldn't have known them. Even now, when someone online uses one of those phrases by accident, my heart jumps. Like part of her is still floating around, borrowing other people to talk. I thought the worst part would be the waiting. That sick, buzzing time before you meet someone where every sound feels louder and every second stretches. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing the waiting never mattered because none of us were waiting for the same person in the first place. I had been talking to him for a while. Not in a dramatic way. It started boring, which is probably why it worked. Random messages during class breaks, dumb photos of food, complaining about small stuff. He felt steady, consistent, not intense, not pushy, just there. I liked that. I liked that he didn't rush anything or act like the world would end if I didn't reply fast. We met through a local social app that shows people nearby. Not dating exactly, but everyone knows that's what it turns into. He said he lived a few towns over. Close enough that meeting didn't feel like a huge thing, far enough that it still felt special. When he suggested meeting in person, my stomach flipped in that nervous but excited way. We picked a public place, a small outdoor plaza near the train station. Benches, food trucks, people always around, safe, normal. The day of the meetup, I spent way too long getting ready. Not trying to impress, just trying to feel like myself. I remember checking the mirror and thinking I looked like a real person, not just a profile picture anymore. That felt weird. I got there early. The plaza smelled like fried food and hot pavement. I picked a bench near the center where people passed constantly. I sat there scrolling, pretending not to look around too much. He texted that he was on his way. 5 minutes later, someone stopped in front of me. I recognized his face immediately from the photos. Same haircut, same eyes. My heart jumped. This was it, except he didn't smile the way I expected. He looked confused, like he wasn't sure if he was in the right place. He stood there a second too long, scanned my face like he was checking details. I started to stand up, then hesitated. Something felt off, not dangerous, just wrong. Before anything could settle, another person walked up. This one was taller, different build, different clothes, but the way he looked at me made my stomach drop. Recognition. Certainty. The kind of look you only give someone you think you know. He stopped a few steps away, eyes locked on me, then glanced at the first guy. Confusion spread across both their faces. My heart started pounding. I stayed seated, frozen, foam clenched in my hand. Then a third person approached. This one was older, not by a lot, but enough that it stood out. He slowed when he saw the small group forming. His eyes landed on me and his face changed instantly. Relief, like Head had finally found what he was looking for. 3 people, all focused on me. No one spoke. No one needed to. The silence was thick and heavy and full of questions no one wanted to ask out loud. I felt like the air got sucked out of the plaza. Sounds faded. Footsteps passed by like background noise. My skin felt tight, like it didn't fit right anymore. They all looked between each other, then back at me. The first guy, the one I recognized, looked angry now. Not explosive, just tight. Jaw clenched. The second looked hurt. The third looked confused in a slower, heavier way. I stood up finally. My legs felt weak. I wanted to leave, run, disappear, but I was stuck there by their attention. I pulled my phone out and opened the app. His profile was still there. Same photos, same name, same bio, nothing changed. No explanation waiting. My notifications blew up all at once. 3 messages, same username, same profile photo. Each message had a different tone. One apologetic, one annoyed, one casual like nothing was wrong. My hands started shaking so badly I had to grip the phone with both hands. I read the messages over and over, trying to make sense of them. They didn't mention the plaza, didn't mention the others. Just acted like they were the only one talking to me. I looked up again. The 3 of them stood in a loose triangle now, all clearly aware something was wrong. People around us started to notice, slow down, stare. I backed away from the bench. My heart was racing so fast it felt like I might pass out. I shook my head, more to myself than anyone else, and stepped around them. No one followed me. I walked fast, not looking back, pushing through the crowd until the station entrance swallowed me up. I didn't stop until I was on the platform, breath coming out in short bursts. I sat down hard on a metal seat and stared at my phone. More messages came in, all from the same profile, switching tone every time. Confused, upset, reassuring. It felt like 3 people sharing one mouth. I blocked the account. My finger hovered before confirming, but I did it anyway. The chat disappeared instantly, like it never existed. I stayed there for a long time, watching trains come and go. My head hurt. My chest felt tight. I kept replaying the scene in my head. Their faces. The way they all looked at me like I belonged to them in some way. When I finally got home, I locked the door and sat on my bed fully dressed. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't play music. I just sat there, phone face down, trying to calm my breathing. Curiosity got the better of me later that night. I made a new account. Different name. No photos. I searched for his profile. It was gone. No trace. No similar usernames. Nothing. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about the other two. What they believed, what they were told, how long they had been talking, if they thought it ghosted them or if they were still getting messages. A few days later, a friend sent me a screenshot. She asked if I knew this guy. The profile looked familiar. Same photos, different name, different bio, same face. My stomach dropped. I didn't reply. Over the next week, I started noticing familiar faces in places I went often. The coffee shop, the bus stop, the corner store. I couldn't be sure. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe it was coincidence. One afternoon, I sat on a different bench in a different plaza, waiting for a friend. I felt my phone buzz. New message request. No photo, no name, just text. It said it was sorry about the confusion, that things got mixed up. I blocked it immediately. I haven't met anyone online since. Not seriously. Not casually. I still think about that day sometimes. About how easily one person turned into three. About how confident they all were that I was theirs to meet. The bench is still there near the station. I pass it sometimes when I take the train. It's just a bench. People sit on it every day waiting for someone who may or may not show up. The first thing I think about now is how normal everything felt right before it went bad. Not dramatic normal, just boring normal. The kind where nothing sticks out, so you don't remember the moment clearly until later when you're trying to rewind your life and find where it cracked. If I could go back, I'd probably miss it again. That's the worst part. I met her online late one night when I couldn't sleep. I was laying on my bed scrolling without thinking, thumb moving on autopilot. Her profile didn't scream fake, no perfect photos, no weird captions, just someone who looked like they existed somewhere else doing regular stuff. We started messaging because of a dumb comment I left. Nothing flirty at first, just back and forth about nothing important. It turned into a routine fast. She messaged me when she woke up, messaged me when she got home. It wasn't intense, just consistent. I didn't tell anyone about her because there was nothing to tell. She was just part of my day now, like checking the weather or opening an app without thinking. She said she lived in another state, far enough that meeting wasn't an option anytime soon. I didn't mind. That almost made it easier. No pressure. No expectations. Just messages. She asked a lot of questions, but they felt normal. What my room looked like. What kind of stuff I kept on my desk. What I did after work. I answered without thinking. People ask that stuff all the time. I even sent photos sometimes. Nothing personal. Just random snapshots. A messy shelf. My shoes by the door. My desk with a half-empty mug on it. One night, she asked for a specific photo. Not in a demanding way. She said it would be funny. She wanted me to take a picture holding my blue ceramic mug, the chipped one I used every morning standing near the window in my living room. She said she liked seeing real details. It made things feel more real to her. I hesitated for maybe 5 seconds. Then I did it. I grabbed the mug, stood near the window like she said, and snapped the photo. My face wasn't fully in it. Just my hand holding the mug, part of my arm, the light from outside coming in. Nothing embarrassing. Nothing dangerous. I sent it and didn't think about it again. She reacted fast, said she liked it, said it felt comforting. That was it. Days passed. Our messages kept going like normal. Nothing changed. I forgot about the photo completely. Then one morning at work, someone sent a link in a group chat. It was local news. Some small crime report about a break-in at a storage place across town. Nothing huge. Just one of those articles you skim while bored. I almost didn't click it. I don't know why I did. Halfway through the article, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like the floor disappeared under me. There was a photo attached, grainy, bad lighting, taken by someone else. But I knew it instantly. It was my photo. Not similar, not close. The exact same image. Same mug, same chipped edge, same angle, same light pattern on the wall behind it. Even the small scratch on the window frame was there. The article said it was an image found circulating online connected to the report. No explanation, no context. My hand started shaking so bad I had to put my phone down. My chest felt tight. My ears were ringing. I stared at the photo on the screen, then at my own hand, like I needed to check it was still attached to me. I had never been to that storage place. I didn't even know where it was until that moment. I opened my messages with her immediately, scrolled back to the night I sent the photo. It was still there. Same image, same timestamp, nothing edited. I asked her about it in the simplest way I could think of. I didn't accuse, didn't panic in the message. I just mentioned the article and asked if she had seen it. She didn't reply. Hours passed. I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept jumping to worst case thoughts I didn't want. I kept imagining police showing up at my door. Kept imagining someone pointing at that photo and saying it was proof. She finally replied late that night. Short, casual, said she hadn't seen it and that it was weird. That was it. No follow-up, no concern, nothing. The next day, the article was gone. The link didn't work anymore. The page refreshed to an error, like it never existed. I felt relief for about 10 seconds. Then I felt worse. I started searching everywhere. Different sites, archives, forums, screenshots. Nothing. Like the photo had never been public at all. Except it existed on my phone. And apparently somewhere else. I stopped messaging her after that. Not fully ghosting, just slowing down. I wanted to see what would happen. She didn't push. Didn't ask why. Didn't notice. A week later, she asked for another photo. This time, she wanted me holding something else. Another object from my live. She described it casually like it was nothing. Something she had seen in the background of an old photo I sent weeks ago. I didn't respond. My heart was racing. My hands felt cold. I stared at the message for a long time before closing the app. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The timing, the article, the missing page, the way she was surprised at all. I started thinking about how easy it would be to plant something like that. How photos can be reused, twisted, dropped into places they don't belong. The next morning, I checked the news again. Different article, different crime, different location, different photo. This one wasn't mine, but the angle was similar. The setup. A hand holding an object near a window. Same framing, same style. I felt sick. I blocked her immediately, deleted the app, wiped my messages, turned my phone off. For a few days, nothing happened. No news, no messages, no signs that anyone cared. Then a letter arrived. Not official, no logo, no return address, just my name written clean on the front. Inside was a single printed page, a cropped version of the photo I took. Below is a line of text printed in plain font, saying it was useful. No signature, no explanation. I didn't call anyone. I didn't report it. I just sat there holding the paper, feeling like my own image had slipped out of my control and started doing things without me. I moved a week later, packed up my live and left town. New place, new routine. I'd not keep that mug anymore. I threw it away in a trash bin far from my new place. Sometimes I check local news out of habit. Sometimes I see photos attached to reports, and my heart jumps even when they have nothing to do with me. I'd never send another photo like that again, not to anyone. But every time I take a picture now, even of nothing important, I wonder where it might end up and what it might be used for without me ever knowing. The weird thing is I didn't cry when it ended. I sat there staring at my phone like it was buffering real life, waiting for some kind of update that would explain why everything suddenly felt hollow. It was raining outside in that annoying misty way that doesn't sound dramatic but soaks everything anyway. My living room smelled like cold coffee and laundry detergent, and I remember thinking this was not the setting I imagined for getting my heart quietly pulled apart. We had been talking for months. Not intense, not fast, not anything that felt like a warning sign. It slid into my life slowly, like a song you don't notice playing until you know all the words. Good morning messages, random thoughts at night, long stretches of nothing where it still felt understood. He didn't oversell himself. Didn't promise anything big. That was part of why I trusted it. We met through a hobby forum, not a dating app. That made it feel safer, like feelings weren't the point at first. We talked about dumb stuff, then deeper stuff, then the kind of stuff you only type when you're sure the other person is really there on the other side. He said he lived in another city, one I had actually been to before, which made him feel more solid somehow. The breakup message came in the middle of the afternoon. I was scrolling while waiting for my food to heat up. I almost missed it because I wasn't expecting anything heavy. It was long but gentle, careful, explaining that he couldn't keep this going, that he didn't want to hurt me more later, that he needed space to figure things out. It was written in a way that made it hard to be angry, like it was designed to slide out without making noise. I sat on the kitchen floor while my food went cold and read it over and over, not because I didn't understand it, because I was trying to find the part where I did something wrong. There was one. That somehow made it worse. I didn't reply. I put my phone down and leaned my head against the cabinet, trying to feel something stronger than numb. My hands felt heavy. My chest felt quiet in a way that scared me. Maybe 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from a friend. Not my best friend. Not someone who knew everything. Just a girl I had known since school, someone I followed online and talked to once in a while. She had no idea what just happened. There was no way she could. The message was comforting, kind, supportive, exactly what you'd want after something like that. And my stomach dropped. It was what she said. It was how she said it. The pacing felt wrong. The softness felt rehearsed. The way the sentences flowed felt familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. It was the same emotional distance wrapped in care, the same gentle push away from intensity, the same voice. I tried to convince myself I was projecting. I was hurt. Of course, everything sounded like him. Comfort only sounds one way, right? I replied with a simple thanks, nothing else. She replied back almost instantly. Longer this time, reassuring, calm, telling me things would settle, that endings don't always mean damage. I felt dizzy. I opened the breakup message again and read it carefully. Then I read her message, then back to his. The similarities started stacking up in my head like bad math I couldn't unsee. The same sentence rhythm, the same way of softening hard truths, even the same kind of spacing. I laughed out loud once, a short, ugly sound because it felt ridiculous to even think it, like my brain was reaching for patterns that weren't there. But I couldn't stop comparing. Over the next few days, she kept checking in, always at the right time, always saying things that felt like they were written specifically for the exact mood I was in. It should have helped. Instead, it made me feel exposed, like someone was reading over my shoulder while I thought. Her tone had changed completely from how she used to talk. Before, she was messy and casual and used too many emojis. Now her messages were controlled, calm, thoughtful in that same exact way he always was. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to accuse. I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I just watched. One night, while I was laying in bed scrolling through old chats, like I was punishing myself, something clicked. A sentence she sent earlier that day felt way too familiar. I searched for it. It was in his breakup message. Not similar. The same sentence, just adjusted slightly so it wouldn't look copied at first glance. My heart started pounding so hard it made my ears ring. My hands felt cold and sweaty at the same time. I sat up in bed, phone glowing in the dark, feeling like I had just stepped on something sharp. I scrolled more, found another sentence, then another. Phrases reused, ideas recycled, comfort cut from the same cloth as the goodbye. I felt sick. I checked the timestamps again, the breakup message, her first comfort message. Too close, like one flowed into the other without a break. I went to his profile, still there, but quiet. No new activity. I went to hers, active, posting normally, joking with other people like nothing was strange. I didn't sleep much that night. My thoughts kept looping, trying to figure out how this was possible. Were they the same person? Was she fake? Was he using her account? Was she even aware? The next morning, she messaged again, asking if I was doing better. I didn't reply. Instead, I did something I hadn't wanted to do. I went deep into old messages, Weeks back, months back. I read everything between me and her, looking for signs I missed. The shift was clear now, a hard line where her voice changed. That line was the same week he and I got closer. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get a full breath. I searched her username on other platforms. It wasn't rare, I expected that. But one account caught my attention. Older, less polished, same writing style, same emotional tone, same careful wording. His. Not the same photos, not the same details, but the same voice wearing a different shape. I felt like my brain was melting, like I couldn't trust anything I had read anymore. I blocked him first, then her, everywhere I could think of. My hands were shaking, but my decision felt clear. For a day, everything was quiet. My phone felt lighter again, but not in a good way. More like something had been removed too cleanly. Then a new message request showed up. New account, no photo, no name. The message was short, gentle, reassuring, written in the exact same tone. I deleted the app without opening it. I didn't want answers anymore. I just wanted silence that didn't feel fake. Now, weeks later, I still catch myself analyzing messages from people I know, checking for that voice, that calm distance, that kindness that feels measured instead of real. The breakup hurt, but not as much as realizing the comfort was coming from the same place. Like being pushed off a ledge and then offered a hand by the same person, just wearing a different mask. The first sign something was wrong wasn't fear, it was embarrassment. That hot flush you get when you realize you've overshared, even though you're alone. I was sitting on my bed in my living room, phone balanced on my knee, rereading old messages like I sometimes do when I can't sleep. Nothing dramatic, just scrolling. Then my phone buzzed and my stomach dropped so fast it felt like I missed a step going downstairs. It was him. We had been talking for a while. Not intense, not fast. Slow enough that it felt safe. He wasn't flashy. Didn't shower me with attention. He was just steady, like someone you could talk to without feeling judged. We met through a shared interest page, and it stayed casual for a long time. Jokes, late-night rants, dumb photos of our surroundings. It felt harmless. I trusted him in that quiet way where you don't even notice you're trusting someone. I told him about my anxiety, about stuff that embarrassed me, about moments I wouldn't tell people I see every day. He listened. He reacted in ways that made me feel understood. It felt real. The message he sent that night wasn't long. It didn't say much at all. It just said he needed to show me something. My chest tightened immediately. He sent a screenshot. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was a cropped image of a group chat. Not one I recognized. Different usernames, different icons. But the messages in the middle of the screen looked familiar in a way that made my vision blur. They were mine. My words, my typos, my long rambling messages sent late at night when I felt safe. Screenshots of things I had typed to him privately, stacked one after another. My hands started shaking so bad I had to set my phone down and pick it back up again. I zoomed in. Checked details. Timestamps. Everything matched. The next screenshot came right after. Same group chat, same messages. But this time, reactions. Laughing emojis. Comments layered underneath. Arrows pointing at certain lines. Someone had circled a sentence where I admitted something personal and added text mocking it. I felt sick. Another screenshot. More of my messages. Different day, different mood. Still mine, still private, still torn apart by people I didn't know. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest felt tight and hollow at the same time. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like my insides were being displayed under bright lights. He kept sending them. Dozens. Screenshots of my vulnerability passed around like entertainment. People reacting in real time. People predicting how I would respond before I even did. People laughing at the exact moments I thought I was being honest. One screenshot showed a message I had sent just minutes earlier, followed by comments guessing how emotional I would get next. I felt exposed in a way I didn't think was possible, like my thoughts had been stolen before they fully formed. I finally scrolled up and noticed the name of the group chat. It included his username. and others. Some of the usernames looked familiar, similar profile pictures to people who followed him, people who liked his posts, people who felt real. I realized then that this wasn't just one person messing with me. It was a group, watching, waiting, sharing. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't know what to type. I felt stupid for being shocked, like I should have known better. I felt angry, humiliated, and small. Before I could respond, another screenshot came through. This one wasn't from the group chat. It was a private message someone else had sent him. They were talking about me like I was a character, like my reactions were predictable, like my emotions were a joke that had already been told too many times. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I refused to cry. I didn't want to give that satisfaction, even though they couldn't see me. I typed a message asking why. He replied casually, too casually. He said it wasn't a big deal, said people share things all the time, said it was funny how I reacted. That hurt more than the screenshots. I went back through our chat, read everything from the beginning. Moments that felt supportive before now felt staged. His responses lined up too well with the screenshots. He had been guiding me, steering conversations toward things that would get reactions, encouraging me to open up just enough. I noticed how often he asked follow-up questions right after emotional messages, how he lingered on certain topics, how he disappeared right after I sent something vulnerable. I felt played in slow motion. Another screenshot came in. This one showed the group chat reacting live to my typing indicator. Someone commented that I was typing exactly when they expected. Another said I would apologize next. Another said I would blame myself. I dropped my phone. I stared at the wall, heart pounding, trying not to throw up. The room felt too quiet, too still, like I was alone in a place that wasn't safe anymore. When I picked my phone back up, there was a final message from him. He said I should calm down, said it wasn't meant to hurt me, said I was overreacting. I blocked him immediately. I blocked every account I could recognize from the screenshots. My hands were shaking, but my movements felt automatic, like survival mode kicked in. I reported the group chat to the platform, attaching everything. Screenshots to screenshots. Proof layered on proof. I'd but know if it did anything. For days after, I barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. I imagined more screenshots being taken, more people laughing, more predictions about my reactions. I deleted old messages, then realized it didn't matter. They already had them. I deactivated my account, then another, then another. I felt like I was erasing myself piece by piece, hoping it would make me less interesting. A week later, a message request came in on an app I forgot I still had. New account, no photo. It said I handled everything exactly how they thought I would. I didn't open it. I deleted the app instead. I still think about that group chat sometimes, about people watching someone be real and treating it like a game, about how easy it was for them to turn my honesty into something to laugh at. The worst part isn't that my messages were shared. It's that my reactions were expected, predicted, like my emotions weren't even mine anymore. I'd not talk online the same way now. I keep things shallow, controlled, safe. I don't type long messages late at night. I don't open up easily, not because I don't want to, but because I know somewhere, someone might be waiting to screenshot it. The first sign something was wrong wasn't fear, it was embarrassment. That hot flush you get when you realize you've overshared, even though you're alone. I was sitting on my bed in my living room, phone balanced on my knee, rereading old messages like I sometimes do when I can't sleep. Nothing dramatic, just scrolling. Then my phone buzzed and my stomach dropped so fast, it felt like I missed a step going downstairs. It was him. We had been talking for a while. Not intense, not fast. Slow enough that it felt safe. He was flashy. Didn't shower me with attention. He was just steady, like someone you could talk to without feeling judged. We met through a shared interest page, and it stayed casual for a long time. Jokes, late-night rants, dumb photos of our surroundings. It felt harmless. I trusted him in that quiet way where you don't even notice you're trusting someone. I told him about my anxiety. about stuff that embarrassed me, about moments I wouldn't tell people I see every day. He listened. He reacted in ways that made me feel understood. It felt real. The message he sent that night wasn't long. It didn't say much at all. It just said he needed to show me something. My chest tightened immediately. He sent a screenshot. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was a cropped image of a group chat. Not one I recognized. Different usernames, different icons. But the messages in the middle of the screen looked familiar in a way that made my vision blur. They were mine. My words, my typos, my long rambling messages sent late at night when I felt safe. Screenshots of things I had typed to him privately, stacked one after another. My hands started shaking so bad I had to set my phone down and pick it back up again. I zoomed in, checked details, timestamps. Everything matched. The next screenshot came right after. Same group chat, same messages. But this time, reactions. Laughing emojis, comments layered underneath, arrows pointing at certain lines. Someone had circled a sentence where I admitted something personal and added text mocking it. I felt sick. Another screenshot. More of my messages. Different day, different mood. Still mine, still private, still torn apart by people I didn't know. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest felt tight and hollow at the same time. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like my insides were being displayed under bright lights. He kept sending them. Dozens. Screenshots of my vulnerability passed around like entertainment. People reacting in real time. People predicting how I would respond before I even did. People laughing at the exact moments I thought I was being honest. One screenshot showed a message I had sent just minutes earlier, followed by comments guessing how emotional I would get next. I felt exposed in a way I didn't think was possible, like my thoughts had been stolen before they fully formed. I finally scrolled up and noticed the name of the group chat. It included his username and others. Some of the usernames looked familiar, similar profile pictures to people who followed him, people who liked his posts, people who felt real. I realized then that this wasn't just one person messing with me. It was a group, watching, waiting, sharing. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't know what to type. I felt stupid for being shocked, like I should have known better. I felt angry, humiliated, small. Before I could respond, another screenshot came through. This one was from the group chat. It was a private message someone else had sent him. They were talking about me like I was a character, like my reactions were predictable, like my emotions were a joke that had already been told too many times. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I refused to cry. I didn't want to give that satisfaction, even though they couldn't see me. I typed a message asking why. He replied casually, too casually. He said it wasn't a big deal, said people share things all the time, said it was funny how I reacted. That hurt more than the screenshots. I went back through our chat, read everything from the beginning. Moments that felt supportive before now felt staged. His responses lined up too well with the screenshots. He had been guiding me, steering conversations toward things that would get reactions, encouraging me to open up just enough. I noticed how often he asked follow-up questions right after emotional messages, how he lingered on certain topics, how he disappeared right after I sent something vulnerable. I felt played in slow motion. Another screenshot came in. This one showed the group chat reacting lit to my typing indicator. Someone commented that I was typing exactly when they expected. Another said I would apologize next. Another said I would blame myself. I dropped my phone. I stared at the wall, heart pounding, trying not to throw up. The room felt too quiet, too still, like I was alone in a place that wasn't safe anymore. When I picked my phone back up, there was a final message from him. He said I should calm down, said it wasn't meant to hurt me, said I was overreacting. I blocked him immediately. I blocked every account I could recognize from the screenshots. My hands were shaking, but my movements felt automatic, like survival mode kicked in. I reported the group chat to the platform, attaching everything. Screenshots of screenshots. Proof layered on proof. I didn't know if it did anything. For days after, I barely slept. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. I imagined more screenshots being taken, more people laughing, more predictions about my reactions. I deleted old messages, then realized it didn't matter. They already had them. I deactivated my account, then another, then another. I felt like I was erasing myself piece by piece, hoping it would make me less interesting. A week later, a message request came in on an app I forgot I still had. New account, no photo. It said I handled everything exactly how they thought I would. I didn't open it. I deleted the app instead. I still think about that group chat sometimes. About people watching someone be real and treating it like a game. About how easy it was for them to turn my honesty into something to laugh at. The worst part isn't that my messages were shared. It's that my reactions were expected, predicted, like my emotions weren't even mine anymore. I don't talk online the same way now. I keep things shallow, controlled, safe. I don't type long messages late at night. I don't open up easily. Not because I don't want to, but because I know somewhere, someone might be waiting to screenshot it. I didn't realize my words were being collected until I heard them coming back to me from someone who wasn't her. That's the moment everything snapped into focus, like suddenly noticing the background noise that's been there the whole time. Before that, I thought we were just bad at arguing, like we kept missing each other on the same points over and over. I blamed myself for most of it. Turns out that was part of the plan. We met on a messaging app that wasn't meant for dating, just one of those places where people talk because they're bored. She replied to something I posted about a movie and we just kept going. It felt easy, familiar. She typed like someone my age, used the same slang, complained about the same dumb stuff. I didn't feel like I was performing or impressing anyone. I just talked. The arguments didn't start right away. For the first couple months, everything was smooth, supportive, a little flirty but not intense. Then small disagreements started popping up. Nothing huge. Tone stuff. Misunderstandings. She would say something felt off. I would try to explain. Somehow, it always ended with me apologizing, even when I wasn't sure what I did wrong. I noticed I kept using the same phrases when I tried to calm things down. Stuff like saying I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, or that I was just explaining myself, or that I needed things to be clear. I didn't think about it at the time. People repeat themselves in arguments. That's normal. The fights followed a pattern I didn't notice until later. She would push on one specific thing, keep circling it, ignoring everything else. Eventually, I'd get frustrated and type a longer message trying to lay it all out. Those were the messages she responded to the most. The ones she reacted strongly to. The ones that made me feel like I was finally being heard. Looking back, those messages were gold to her. Things got worse when she started accusing me of being hard to understand. She would say other people had trouble with how I phrased things, that I came off cold or defensive. I didn't want to be that guy, so I tried harder, softened my words, added explanations, repeated myself in slightly different ways. I didn't notice I was being guided. One night, after a long back and forth that left me drained, she stopped replying. Just disappeared mid-argument. I sat there staring at my phone, heart racing, wondering if I went too far. When she finally came back hours later, she acted like nothing happened. Said she needed space. That was it. I apologized again. The next day, I got a message request from someone I didn't know. Blank profile. They said something that made my stomach twist. It used one of my phrases. Not just similar wording, the exact same sentence I used during that argument. Punctuation and all. I assumed it was a coincidence. People talk similarly online. I brushed it off and blocked the account. Then it happened again. Different app. Different account. Same phrase. This time followed by more words that sounded like me trying to justify myself to someone I didn't know. I started feeling paranoid, like I was imagining patterns because I was stressed. I didn't tell her about it. I didn't want to sound unstable. The arguments kept coming. They always started the same way. Something small. Something vague. She would say she felt dismissed. I would ask how. She would avoid specifics. I would try to guess. Eventually, it'd type another long explanation, laying out my intentions and thoughts. After each fight, she'd go quiet for a while. When she came back, she was calm, almost relieved, like she'd gotten what she needed. It wasn't until I stumbled across a thread online that everything cracked open. Someone had posted screenshots of a conversation claiming to be me. The username wasn't mine, but the profile photo was one of my older pictures. The text underneath felt like a punch to the chest. It was me. Or at least my words. Phrases I recognized instantly. Lines I'd typed during arguments. Explanations I'd only ever given to her. Arranged into a conversation I never had. I scrolled through the comments, heart pounding. People were reacting to it, arguing with the fake me, quoting my words back like they knew what kind of person I was. I felt dizzy. I searched more, found another profile. Same photo, different platform, same writing style, same phrases, same way of deflecting blame and sounding calm while clearly upsetting people. I finally understood. Those arguments weren't fights, they were rehearsals. She wasn't trying to resolve anything. She was pushing me into saying certain things, shaping how I explained myself, collecting examples of my voice under pressure. I went back through our chat history and read everything with new eyes, the way she framed her complaints, how she ignored parts of my responses and focused on others, how she kept nudging me to clarify, rephrase, repeat. She wasn't reacting to me, she was directing me. I confronted her in the calmest way I could, didn't accuse. Just asked if she knew about the fake accounts, if she knew my photos were being used. Her reply was immediate and dismissive. Said people steal photos all the time. Said I was jumping to conclusions. Said I was doing that thing again where I over-explained. That phrase hit me like a slap. That thing again. She had named it, categorized it, used it before. Every argument had ended with her pointing out the same supposed flaw. The one that made me type more, explain more, give her exactly what she wanted. I stopped replying after that. Within hours, I got messages from strangers. Angry ones, confused ones. People who thought I was ignoring them after saying certain things. They quoted me. Sent screenshots. Used my words against me. I tried explaining I was being impersonated. Some believed me. Some didn't. A few said it sounded exactly like something I'd say if I got caught. I felt trapped inside my own voice. I deleted my accounts, locked down everything, changed photos, changed usernames. It didn't matter. The fake profiles kept popping up with the same tone, the same phrases, the same calm defensiveness. I blocked her everywhere. She never tried to reach out again. She didn't need to. Weeks passed. The messages slowed down. The damage stuck around. I became hyper-aware of how I talk, how I explain myself, how much I say when things get tense. I still think about those arguments sometimes, how I walked into them thinking we were solving something together, how I left each one feeling smaller, more unsure, more eager to be understood. I wasn't arguing with a person, I was training a script. Now, when someone pushes me to explain myself over and over, my chest tightens. I stop typing. I walk away. I don't give anyone the raw material anymore. Somewhere out there, versions of me still exist saying things I once said it in moments I thought were private. I can't erase them. I can only be quieter now. The moment I heard his voice for the first time, my hands went numb, not in a romantic way. More like my body realized something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I had been waiting for that call for months, building it up in my head like it would finally lock everything into place and make him real in a way text never could. Instead, it did the opposite. It broke something open that I still can't close. We met online the same boring way everything happens now. Comment section, private messages, long stretches of talking about nothing that slowly turned into talking about everything. He was intense, was dramatic. That was the part that made it easy. He felt steady, predictable, like someone you could trust because there were no sudden spikes or red flags. He avoided calls at first, but not in a suspicious way. He said he hated his voice, said it made him self-conscious. I didn't push. I liked him for how he typed anyway. His messages felt thoughtful, slow, careful. He remembered small details. Checked in without being overbearing. I started structuring my days around when he was usually online without even realizing it. When he finally agreed to a call, it felt like a big step. I cleaned my lid like he could somehow see it through the phone. I sat on my bed with my charger plugged in and my door closed, heart pounding harder than it should have. The call connected after a few rings. His voice was softer than I expected. Not deep, not dramatic. Calm, a little tired. It matched the way he typed so perfectly that I felt instant relief wash over me. This was him. Finally, a real person with breath and pauses and small imperfections. We talked for a while, about normal stuff, nothing emotional, nothing heavy. I focused on the sound of him more than the words, the way he laughed under his breath, the way he paused before answering. It grounded me. After we hung up, I just sat there staring at my phone, smiling like an idiot. It felt like a milestone, like we had crossed some invisible line. Maybe 2 minutes later, my phone rang again. Different app. I almost didn't answer. I assumed it was a pocket call or a glitch, but curiosity won. The voice that came through made my stomach flip. It was his voice. Not similar, not close. The same voice. Same tone, same pacing, same slight rasp when he breathed in before speaking. But the way it spoke was different. Faster, more casual, less careful, like a different personality wearing the same sound. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. Maybe it was his friend using his phone. Maybe it was some weird coincidence. I told myself there had to be a simple explanation. I stayed on the call, frozen listening. The person on the other end acted like they knew me, but not intimately, like an acquaintance, like someone who had been briefed on who I was instead of actually knowing me. They referenced things I had mentioned online, but without the emotional weight, facts without context. My heart was racing so hard I felt dizzy. I ended the call abruptly and just sat there staring at the wall, trying to slow my breathing. My hands were shaking. I checked my call log again. 2 calls, 2 apps, minutes apart. I messaged him immediately, asking if he had just called me from somewhere else. He replied quickly, said no, said he was still lying on his bed processing how nervous he felt after the call. That didn't line up. I asked if anyone else had access to his account. He said no, asked why I was asking. I didn't know how to explain without sounding unhinged. I told him I thought I got a weird call right after hours. He brushed it off, said probably spam, said I shouldn't worry. I tried not to. The next day it happened again. We didn't talk on the phone that time, just messages. Everything felt normal. Then in the afternoon my phone rang. Same second voice. Same sound, different person. This time, they spoke like someone irritated, rushed, distracted, still his voice, but stripped of the warmth I recognized. I ended the call faster this time. My chest felt tight all day. I couldn't focus on anything. I kept replaying the sound in my head, comparing it to the call from the night before. There was no difference, none that mattered. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was overanalyzing. Maybe voices just sound similar over phone speakers. Maybe stress was messing with my perception. But then a third call came in that week. Another app. Another account. Same voice again. This one sounded bored, almost annoyed, like I was an obligation. I felt sick. I finally told him everything, not accusing, just laying it out. 3 calls, same voice, different apps, different energy. His response came slower this time. When it did, it was calm, reassuring. He said I might be projecting. Said anxiety can do weird things. Said maybe I was mixing memories together. I wanted to believe him, badly. But once you hear something like that, you can't unhear it. I started noticing patterns. The times the second calls came in lined up with when he went quiet in our chat. Gaps where he didn't reply for hours. Gaps I had always assumed were normal. I searched his username online. Nothing strange at first. Then I noticed similar usernames with slight variations. Different platforms. Empty profiles. I clicked one. It was active. Posts written in the same style as his messages to me, same pacing, same thoughtful tone. Except this account interacted with different people. I scrolled further. Comments from others thanking him for calling, saying his voice was comforting, familiar. My stomach dropped. I messaged one of them from a burner account, asking casually what he was like. They described his voice, word for word the same way I would have. I felt like the room tilted. I went back to my chat with him and read everything, every pause, every deflection, every time he'd avoided specifics about his schedule, how often he said he was tired but never said why. He was just talking to me. He was calling others, using the same voice, shifting it just enough to fit whoever was on the other end. The next time he asked to call, I agreed. I wanted to hear it again, to be sure. The call went fine. His usual calm presence, soft laughter, careful phrasing. After we hung up, I waited. My phone rang again less than a minute later. Same voice. This time, the person sounded cheerful, upbeat, like they had just finished a great conversation. I felt something break in my chest. I didn't answer. I turned my phone off completely and sat there in silence, heart pounding, feeling like I had accidentally peeked behind a curtain I was never meant to see behind. I blocked him that night, everywhere, every app, every account I could find. The calls stopped after that. But sometimes when my phone rings from an unknown number, my whole body tenses, because I know now that voices can be shared, reused, repurposed. It was that he lied about who he was. It's that he was too many people at once, and I was never the only one hearing him. I didn't wake up thinking my name would end up flagged in a system I didn't even understand. It was one of those mornings where everything felt normal enough to be forgettable. Gray light through the blinds, my phone half charged, notifications stacked from stuff I ignored. The kind of calm that makes you lower your guard without realizing it. By the end of the day, that calm would feel like a joke I was in on. I met him through a gaming forum that barely anyone uses anymore. I was bored at work one night, scrolling through threads while pretending to look busy. He replied to a post I made complaining about lag and bad servers. It turned into messages, then daily chats. Nothing intense. Nothing that felt like a setup. Just someone who knew how to keep a conversation going without pushing. He said he lived far away, different time zone, which explained why he was online when I was winding down. He talked about stress a lot. Money stress, work stress, life just being heavy. I related more than I wanted to admit. I wasn't broke, but I wasn't comfortable either. It felt good to talk to someone who didn't pretend everything was fine. Weeks passed, then months. Our chats blended into my routine so smoothly I didn't notice when I started trusting him. He remembered details about my schedule, asked about my shifts, checked in when I complained about long days. It felt supportive in a low-key way. The money talk didn't start as a request. It started as venting. His bank was acting weird. Transfers taking longer than usual. Accounts being reviewed. He joked about how everything financial feels like a maze designed to make you mess up. I laughed and agreed. Nothing about it felt dangerous. One night, he mentioned needing a favor. He didn't frame it as urgent. Didn't panic. Just explained that he needed to move some money temporarily because his account was stuck in review. Said it was annoying but not serious. Said it would only be for a short window. A day, maybe less. I hesitated. I remember sitting on my bed, phone warm in my hand, staring at the message longer than usual. My gut felt tight, but he didn't push. He even said it was fine if I couldn't help. That made it easier to say yes. The amount wasn't huge. Enough to notice, not enough to scare me. He sent it first, which made it feel safer. It showed up in my account without any problem. No warnings, no delays, just a normal transfer. He walked me through what to do next. Said to send it to another account he controlled so he could keep things moving. The explanation sounded boring and technical. I didn't understand it fully, but I didn't feel like I needed to. He sounded confident, calm, like someone who had done this before. I sent the money. He thanked me, said he appreciated it, said he'd make it up to me. I went to sleep thinking I had helped someone I cared about. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Emails, notifications. Alerts from my bank app I couldn't even open properly. Every time I tried to log in, it threw an error. Access restricted. Review in progress. My heart started racing. I sat up too fast and felt dizzy. I refreshed my email and saw the message that made my stomach drop. My account was frozen pending investigation due to suspicious activity. I felt cold all over. I messaged him immediately. No response. I tried calling my bank. Long waits, robotic voices, being passed around. When I finally talked to a real person, their tone changed the second I explained the transfer. They asked questions I couldn't answer. Where the money came from, who the recipient was, how I knew them. I said I met him online. There was a pause that felt heady. After that, nothing moved quickly. My account stayed frozen. My cards didn't work. My direct deposit was blocked. Everything I needed to function was suddenly locked behind a review I didn't understand. I paced my lid like an animal, refreshing apps, checking messages. My hand shook constantly. I couldn't focus on anything else. He finally replied hours later. Just a short message saying he was busy and would explain later. That was it. Later never came. Instead, I started getting messages from strangers. Someone asked if I was the person connected to a certain account. Another said my name had come up in a fraud report. Another warned me to get a lawyer. I felt like the walls were closing in. I searched his username everywhere. At first, nothing. Then similar names popped up. Same profile photo. Same writing style. Different platforms. Different victims. I clicked through comment sections and message threads and saw the same story repeated with small changes. Someone needing help. Someone trusted. Money moved temporarily. Accounts frozen. I wasn't special. I was just next. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get a full breath. I felt stupid, angry, scared, all at once. My bank sent another email explaining the situation in vague terms. Potential laundering activity. Account under extended review. No timeline given. I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every notification felt like it could be worse news. I had to explain everything to my family. Saying it out loud felt humiliating. Seeing the concern on their faces made my chest ache. They helped me get through the immediate stuff, but I could tell they were worried in a way they had never been before. Days passed, then weeks. My account stayed frozen. My name was flagged internally. Every interaction with my bank felt tense, like I was guilty until proven otherwise. He never contacted me again. His profiles disappeared one by one, replaced by new ones with new names. I recognized them anyway. The same tone, the same pacing, the same calm way of asking for help. One night, I got a message from someone I didn't know. They said they were building a list of people affected by the same scam. My name was already on it. That broke something in me. I wasn't just dealing with my own mess. I was part of a pattern. A chain, something bigger than I could control. Eventually, my account was partially unfrozen. Some funds released. Others held back indefinitely. The investigation did disappear. It just slowed down. A shadow that followed me around in paperwork and warnings. I couldn't relax anymore. Every transaction felt risky. Every message asking for help made my stomach tighten. I stopped trusting the calm voices. Stopped trusting patience. Stopped trusting people who never seemed rushed. The worst part was the money or the frozen account. It was realizing how easily my need to be useful was used against me. How being reliable became the reason I was targeted. I still think about that moment before I sent the transfer. The hesitation I ignored. The calm reassurance that smoothed it over. My account works now, mostly, but my name is still marked somewhere I can't see, and I know one wrong move could bring it all back. I don't help people move money anymore. I don't explain myself when something feels off. I don't ignore that tight feeling in my chest. Somewhere out there, he is still asking for temporary help, still sounding reasonable, still waiting for the next person to say yes. The moment I realized something was wrong was when I felt hurt. It was when I felt studied, like I was remembering something that happened to me, but reviewing material someone else had organized better than I ever could. I was laying on my bed, phone glowing in the dark, scrolling through a random thread I didn't even mean to open, and I saw my life laid out in bullet points by someone who wasn't me. I met her during a stretch of my life where I wasn't doing great, but I was pretending I was. Late nights, too much scrolling, not enough sleep. She messaged me first after I commented on a post about mental health. Nothing heavy, just a small reply that turned into a conversation. She typed carefully, not too fast, not too eager. She felt safe in a quiet way. We talked every day, sometimes about nothing, sometimes about things I had never said out loud before. She had a way of listening that felt rare. She didn't interrupt, didn't rush to fix anything. She just let me talk until the words stopped falling out. I trusted her faster than I should have, but it didn't feel reckless. It felt relieving. Over time, I told her about things I didn't even fully understand myself yet. Stuff from my past that still sat weird in my chest. Moments I had learned to joke about so I didn't have to think too hard. She remembered everything. Dates, phrases, tiny details. She would bring them up weeks later like they mattered, like I mattered. She said she was studying psychology. That made sense to me. It explained why she asked thoughtful questions, why she seemed to know when to stay quiet and when to respond. I thought she was just good at caring. I didn't realize she was collecting. The shift happened slowly. She started reframing things I told her, not correcting me, just summarizing, saying things like that sounds like a pattern where that reaction makes sense, given what you've been through. It felt validating, like someone finally understood the bigger picture. I started relying on her perspective more than my own. One night, she went quiet mid-conversation. No warning, no explanation. That wasn't normal for her. I stayed up later than usual, checking my phone every few minutes, feeling that tight anxiety creep in. When she came back the next day, she acted normal. Said she had been busy. Didn't ask how I felt about the silence. I brushed it off. Weeks later, I was scrolling through a forum related to mental health resources. Not even looking for anything specific, just killing time. Someone posted a link to a discussion about emotional influence techniques. The title made my stomach twist, but curiosity pulled me in. The post broke things down into examples, case studies, scenarios. Halfway through, I froze. The situation being described was mine. Not similar, not inspired by. Mine. Details lined up too perfectly. Age range, background, the way I reacted to certain triggers, even a phrase I had used once during a late-night rant. It was all there, just written clinically, like a puzzle laid out on a table. My heart started racing. My hands felt numb. I scrolled faster, hoping it would fall apart if I read enough. It did. The comments underneath made it worse. People discussing the technique, praising how effective it was, saying the subject responded exactly as predicted, laughing at how easily trust was built. I felt sick. I clicked the username of the person who posted it. It was her. Not the same profile photo, not the same bio, but the writing style hit me immediately. The same pacing, the same careful tone, the same way of explaining emotional moments like they were systems. I clicked through her post history. There were more. Different examples, different subjects, but one stood out again and again, a recurring case, described over multiple posts as progress updates. It was me. She had renamed me, stripped identifying details, but anyone who knew me would have recognized it. She talked about my trauma like it was a toolkit, labeled reactions, noted what responses worked best to deepen attachment, described how to phrase reassurance to keep me opening up. I felt like I was going to throw up. I scrolled until my vision blurred. She had categorized my worst memories, the stuff I trusted her with, turned them into lessons, techniques, content. One post mentioned how useful it was to mirror vulnerability early to encourage deeper sharing later. Another explained how delayed responses increased emotional investment. She referenced moments I remembered vividly, now framed as strategic choices. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe properly. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, feeling like I had been split open and sorted into folders. I messaged her immediately, not accusing, just asking if she posted on that forum. She took longer than usual to reply. When she did, she denied it, said I was mistaken, said lots of people study similar things, said I was reading too much into it. I sent her screenshots. She went quiet. Hours passed. Then she replied again, tone calm, saying she never used real people and that everything was anonymized, that I should feel honored my story could help others understand emotional patterns. That word stuck with me. Help. I realized then she never saw me as a person in pain. I was material, proof of concept, something she could package and present. I dug deeper, followed links she shared in comments, found a site where she sold guides, not expensive, small purchases, marketed as educational. One section was titled Real Examples. Inside were descriptions that matched my life in uncomfortable detail. Not word for word, but close enough that my hands shook as I scrolled. My trauma wasn't just discussed. It was formatted, edited, optimized. I felt stripped, like something private had been taken from me without asking and dressed up for strangers. I blocked her everywhere after that. Didn't argue, didn't explain. I didn't have the energy. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about all the times she asked me to elaborate, all the moments she nudged me to explain how something felt instead of what happened, all the times she praised my honesty. It wasn't empathy. It was data collection. I reported the content where I could. Some posts got taken down, some did. She moved platforms, changed usernames. The material did disappear. It just shifted. Sometimes I still stumble across it, phrased slightly differently. My pain recycled into new examples. I don't talk about my trauma online anymore. Not in detail. Not with strangers. I keep it close now, even from people who seem understanding. Not because I don't want help, but because I know how easily stories can be taken apart and reused. The worst part isn't that she shared my past. It's that she listened so well while planning to use it, that every comforting response had a purpose beyond care. I still catch myself wanting to explain things fully to people, wanting to be understood. Then I stop, because I remember how good she was at understanding me without ever seeing me. Somewhere out there, she's probably still teaching people how to do what she did to me, using someone else's story now, taking notes while they talk, believing they're finally safe. I didn't feel brave when I blocked her. I felt tired, the kind of tired that makes your hands heavy and your thoughts slow, like you've been carrying something too long and finally set it down without ceremony. It wasn't dramatic, no final message, no explanation. I just went through my phone and shut every door I knew how to shut. Apps, accounts, backups. It felt clean for about 10 minutes. We met online months before, back when talking to strangers felt harmless. She wasn't intense or mysterious. She was consistent, always there, always responding in a way that made me feel like I was talking into a void. We talked about music, boring work stuff, random late night thoughts that didn't matter but somehow did. It felt easy, and easy things are the ones you stop guarding. There were signs I ignored, not obvious ones, just small discomforts I talked myself out of. Like how she always seemed to know what mood I was in before I said anything, or how she remembered exact phrases I used weeks earlier and brought them back like bookmarks. I thought it meant she cared. The last week we talked, something shifted. Her messages felt tighter, more focused. She started pushing conversations into emotional corners I wasn't ready for, asking questions that felt less like curiosity and more like testing. I pulled back a little. She noticed immediately. I didn't plan a goodbye. I never typed one. I thought about it a few times, opening the chat and closing it again. I drafted messages in my head while pacing my live, but I never wrote them down. I didn't want closure. I just wanted quiet. So I blocked her. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. No buzzing phone, no pressure to respond. The silence felt earned. The next afternoon, while I was at a coffee place killing time before work, my phone buzzed. Message request. No account, no photo, no history. The kind of profile you usually ignore without thinking. I almost declined it without opening, but something about the timing stopped me. Curiosity won. The message made my stomach drop. It was the goodbye. Not a goodbye she sent me. The goodbye I never sent her. Word for word. The exact phrasing I had rehearsed in my head and never typed. The way I planned to explain without blaming. The sentence where I said I needed space but didn't want to hurt anyone. Even the part where I softened it at the end because I always do that. My hands started shaking so bad I had to put my phone down on the table and press my palms flat against the surface. My heart was pounding hard enough that I felt it in my throat. I picked the phone back up and read it again, slower, checking for differences. There were none. Punctuation, spacing, everything matched the version that only ever existed in my thoughts. I checked the username again. Nothing familiar. I clicked the profile, created recently. No posts, no followers, no connection to her that I could see. I blocked the account immediately. For about an hour, I just sat there staring at nothing, replaying every moment from the last few days. I tried to convince myself I had typed it somewhere and forgotten. Maybe in notes, maybe in drafts. I searched my phone obsessively. Messages, apps, deleted folders, nothing. I had never written it. That night, another message request came in. Different account. Same message. My chest felt tight. My skin felt cold. I didn't open it this time. I blocked it from the preview screen. The next day, it happened again. And again. Always new accounts. Always the same text. Sometimes sent at times I remembered thinking about sending it. Like it was synced to my thoughts instead of my phone. I stopped sleeping well. Every buzz made me flinch. I turned my phone face down at night, but that didn't stop the anxiety. My brain kept replaying the message, trying to understand how something I never typed could exist outside my head. I started wondering if I had said it out loud at some point. Maybe during a walk. Maybe half asleep. Maybe she'd recorded me somehow. The thought made my stomach twist. I went back through our old chats, read everything from the beginning. Patterns started showing themselves. The way she mirrored my language early on. How she repeated my phrases back to me slightly adjusted. How she often finished my thoughts for me. It felt less like she was responding and more like she was studying. One night, I noticed something that made my chest tighten even more. A message she had sent weeks earlier used part of the goodbye phrase. Just a fragment. At the time, I thought it was coincidence. Now it felt like practice. I tried locking everything down further. Changed usernames. Deleted old accounts. Made new ones. It didn't matter. The messages kept coming. One showed up on a platform I barely used anymore. Another appeared through email using a name I recognized from a fake account she once mentioned knowing. Always the same goodbye. Never anything else. It wasn't threatening. Wasn't angry. Just calmly repeating the words I never gave her. That was the worst part. It felt like she was proving something. Like she wanted me to know she already had what I thought I was keeping to myself. I finally replied once. Not to the message itself, but to myself. I typed the goodbye into my notes app for the first time, just to see it written down. The second I saved it, my phone buzzed. New message request. Same text. Same timing. I felt something break then. Not panic, not fear. Just a deep, hollow realization that blocking someone doesn't mean they stop having access to you. It just changes how they reach you. I stopped responding entirely after that. Stopped blocking too. Just let the requests pile up unopened. I didn't want to play along anymore. Eventually, they slowed down, then stopped. Weeks passed. My phone felt normal again. The silence came back, quieter this time, heavier. Then one night, while scrolling mindlessly before bed, I saw a post in a random forum about unsent messages. People sharing goodbyes they never sent. One post stood out. It used my words. Not exactly copied, but close enough that my heart started racing. Same structure. Same emotional beats. Same soft ending. The username was hers. The comments underneath praised how effective the wording was, how clean, how emotionally balanced. Someone asked where they learned to write like that. The poster replied that they studied patterns, that people often rehearse goodbyes before sending them, and those rehearsed versions are more honest than what actually gets typed. I closed the app and stared at the ceiling for a long time. I buttoned how she got goodbye. Maybe I said it out loud without realizing. Maybe I typed it somewhere and forgot. Maybe she pieced it together from months of talking to me until she knew exactly what I would say when I finally left. What I do know is that it was hers to have. I don't block people as fast anymore. Not because I'm less cautious, but because I know blocking isn't an ending. It's just a signal, and sometimes it's the signal someone is waiting for. The goodbye still sits in my notes app, untouched, the only place it belongs. The first time he told me I remembered something wrong, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt harmless, like one of those moments where two people recall the same thing differently and shrug it off. I didn't know then that it would turn into the most unsettling part of my life, slowly peeling my trust away from my own head. We met online during a time when my days blended together. Same routine, same scrolling, same late nights where the phone felt louder in the room. He commented on a post I made about being tired all the time, and somehow that turned into messaging every day. Nothing intense at first, just shared complaints and random thoughts. He was calm, attentive. He never rushed replies, but he was always there. That consistency made me feel safe. We talked for months. I told him stories about my past the same way you'd tell someone who listens without judgment. Things about old friendships, family arguments, moments that stuck with me longer than they should have. He remembered everything. Not just the big things, but small details. Dates, exact words, how I felt afterward. I thought it meant he cared. The first correction came during a normal conversation. I mentioned an argument I had with a friend years ago, one I had told him about before. He said I was mixing it up with a different one. I told him I was pretty sure I wasn't. He didn't push. He just said memories are tricky and moved on. It didn't bother me. The second time, he was more specific. He said I remembered the order of events wrong, said I had told him something different before. I paused, thinking my memory felt solid, but doubt crept in anyway. I didn't want to argue over something so small, so I let it go. Then he sent a screenshot. It was from our chat, or at least it looked like it was. My username, his username. Same app layout, same colors. It showed me saying something I didn't remember saying. Not wildly different, but enough to change the meaning of the story. I stared at it for a long time. I scrolled back through our actual chat, trying to find it. It was there. I told him I couldn't find the message. He said the app probably glitched. Said that happens sometimes. Said screenshots don't lie. That phrase stuck with me. Screenshots don't lie. After that, it started happening more often. Small corrections at first. Him saying I remembered conversations wrong. Saying I reacted differently than I claimed. Each time, he had proof. Another screenshot. Always clean. Always believable. Sometimes the screenshot showed messages I sort of remembered but didn't feel quite right. Sometimes they showed things I was sure I never said. I started questioning myself. I wondered if stress was messing with my memory, if I was more forgetful than I realized. I started rereading our chats obsessively, like I was studying for a test I didn't know I signed up for. He noticed. He started pointing it out gently, saying I seemed anxious, saying maybe I should trust the records instead of my feelings, saying feelings can rewrite memories without you noticing. I hated how reasonable it sounded. One night, he corrected a memory that mattered to me, something personal, something emotional, a story about a moment that shaped how I see myself. He said I had told it differently before, said my reaction was to what I remembered. He sent another screenshot. This one made my chest tighten. It showed me downplaying the moment, making it seem smaller, less important, like it didn't affect me that much. I felt dizzy. I knew how that moment felt. I knew the weight of it. Seeing it rewritten like that made me feel detached from myself, like I was watching someone else talk about my life. I checked the date on the screenshot, weeks earlier, a time when I remember feeling raw and open. I couldn't find it in our chat history. I told him that scared me. He responded by saying maybe my brain was protecting me by changing the memory. Said that happens with emotional stuff. Said it was normal. I wanted to believe him. I didn't want to think someone would lie so carefully. The more I doubted myself, the more confident he became. He started correcting things without hesitation, not just memories, but feelings. Saying I was actually upset when I thought I was. Saying I misunderstood his tone. Saying I reacted more strongly than the situation deserved. Always calm, always patient, always with proof. The screenshots got more frequent. Sometimes he sent them before I even questioned anything, like he was anticipating my confusion, like he was ready. I started keeping my own screenshots, saving parts of our chat just in case, comparing them to his. That's when I noticed it. His screenshots were edited. Not badly, not obvious at first glance, but small things were off. Font spacing slightly different. Timestamps that didn't line up perfectly with mine. Tiny inconsistencies you wouldn't notice unless you were already suspicious. My hands shook as I compared them side by side. My chest felt tight. My mouth went dry. I confronted him carefully, not accusing, just pointing out that my screenshots didn't match his. He didn't deny it. He said mine were outdated, said apps cache data weirdly, said different devices show conversations differently, said I should stop obsessing because it wasn't healthy. That word again. Healthy. I realized then how deep it had gone. He wasn't just lying. He was trying to replace my memory with his version. Slowly. Patiently. Using tools that looked official and solid. Screenshots. Timestamps. Records. I thought about how often people say trust receipts over memory. How easy it is to believe something with visual proof, even when your gut screams otherwise. I felt sick. I stopped sharing personal stories after that, kept conversations shallow. Neutral, he noticed immediately, asked what was wrong, asked why I seemed distant. I told him I needed space. He sent a screenshot showing me agreeing weeks earlier that space wasn't helpful for me, showing me saying I preferred talking things out. I stared at it, heart racing. I blocked him that night. The silence afterward felt unreal, like stepping out of a loud room and realizing how much noise you had been living with. Days passed. Then a message request appeared from a new account. No photo, no history. It said I remembered blocking him wrong. Attached was a screenshot showing me saying I needed a break, not a block. My stomach dropped. I didn't reply. I blocked it immediately. Another account messaged me the next day. Another screenshot. Another correction. This time about a conversation we supposedly had after the block. I had never seen it before. I shut everything down, deleted apps, logged out of accounts. I needed my head back. Even now, months later, I still hesitate before trusting my own memory. I still double-check old chats. Still feel a flicker of doubt when someone confidently tells me I remember something wrong. The worst part isn't that he lied. It's that for a while, I believed him over myself. Somewhere out there, he probably still has those edited screenshots, still using them on someone else, still slowly convincing them that their own memories are unreliable. I keep my own records now, not because I don't trust myself, but because I know how easy it is for someone else to try to take that trust away. The envelope sat in my mailbox longer than it should have. Not because I was busy, but because something about it felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't marked urgent, wasn't dramatic. Just my name typed cleanly on the front, return address from a law office I did recognize. I remember standing there in the hallway of my apartment building, holding it between two fingers like it might stain me. I opened it inside my live, sitting at the small table by the window where I usually drop junk mail. The paper inside was heavier than normal, thick, and official. I skimmed the first paragraph and felt my stomach drop so hard I had to grab the edge of the table to steady myself. It was a cease and desist. My name was right there at the top. Full name. Correct spelling. The letter claimed I had sent repeated unwanted messages to someone, messages that crossed lines and caused stress. It said I was being warned to stop immediately or further action would be taken. I didn't understand any of it. Then I saw the attachments. Screenshots. Pages of them. Messages written in my style, my tone, my pacing, phrases I use without thinking, soft disclaimers, careful explanations, even the way I end sentences when I'm trying not to sound aggressive. It was all there. But I had never sent them. I sat down slowly, my heart pounding so hard it felt like my ribs were shaking. I read the messages one by one, my eyes scanning for something that would prove it wasn't me. Instead, all I found were my words. Not copied from one message, not obviously pasted. These were new messages built out of pieces of how I talk. It felt like reading something I had written while sleepwalking. I had been talking to her for months before all this. Nothing intense, nothing dramatic, just conversations that filled the gaps in the day. She was funny, observant. She asked thoughtful questions. We met through a comment section and drifted into private messages like everyone does now. We never fought, never flirted aggressively. Nothing that would explain a letter like this. I scrolled back through our actual chat history immediately, my hands shaking. Everything was normal. Nothing even close to what the letter described. I checked timestamps on the screenshots in the letter. They lined up with times I was asleep, times I was at work, times my phone was even in my hand. My chest felt tight. My thoughts started racing. I wondered if my account had been hacked, if someone else had access to my messages. But the platforms listed in the screenshots were even ones I used regularly. I looked closer. The usernames sending the messages weren't mine, but the writing was. The letter stated that the recipient believed the accounts belonged to me based on how personal the messages were and how well they mirrored my previous conversations with her. Mirrored. That word stuck. I messaged her immediately, my fingers clumsy and cold. I told her about the letter, asked if she knew what was going on. She replied calmly, said she didn't understand either, said maybe someone was impersonating me. Then she sent something that made my stomach twist. She said the messages sounded like me. I felt dizzy. I asked if she had shared our conversations with anyone. She said no, said she valued privacy, said she would never do that. The letter said otherwise. One page quoted entire sentences I remembered typing to her weeks earlier. Not copied exactly, but close enough that I recognized the rhythm. Those sentences were now repurposed into something harsher, more insistent, twisted just enough to feel wrong. I spent the rest of the night comparing messages, my real ones, the fake ones, side by side. It felt like watching someone wear my face slightly wrong. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw lines of text scrolling behind my eyelids. The next morning, I called the number on the letter. My voice shook as I explained that I didn't send those messages, that someone was impersonating me. The person on the other end sounded polite but distant. They said intent didn't matter as much as impact, that the messages were clearly written in my voice, that the recipient felt threatened. Threatened. That word felt unreal. They advised me to stop all contact immediately and consider legal counsel. I hung up and sat in silence for a long time. I searched my name online, found nothing at first. Then I noticed a forum thread where someone complained about a guy who wouldn't stop messaging them, even after being blocked. The screenshots were blurred, but I recognized the sentence structures instantly. It was me again. Or at least the version of me someone else was running. I scrolled the comments. People agreed the messages sounded manipulative, persistent, creepy. They analyzed the tone, pointed out patterns. Patterns I recognized for myself. I felt sick. I confronted her again, gently. I didn't accuse. I just asked if she knew about the forum post. She went quiet. Hours passed. When she finally replied, she said she had shared some screenshots with a friend for advice. Said maybe things got misunderstood from there. Said she didn't expect it to escalate. Something clicked then. She didn't have to write the fake messages herself. She just had to feed someone enough of my real ones. Enough material to learn me. I blocked her that night, everywhere. The cease and desist didn't disappear just because I blocked someone. It stayed folded on my table like a warning from a future I didn't choose. Days later, I got an email from a different address. No name, no greeting. It quoted another message, one I had never sent. But it used a phrase I had typed only once in my life, late at night, buried deep in a long conversation with her. That phrase had never been public. I felt cold all over. I realized then that my words had escaped me, that my style had been learned, copied, reused, that even if I never typed another message again, versions of me keep talking without me. The letter eventually led nowhere. No lawsuit, no court date, just a permanent mark of fear that something I didn't do almost became real. I deleted old accounts, wiped chats, changed usernames. It helped a little. But sometimes when I type a long message and pause before sending, I wonder who else might be able to finish it for me now. I knew something was wrong before the coffee even cooled. It wasn't a big obvious thing, just a pressure in my chest that didn't match the moment. I had finally agreed to meet someone new after swearing I would for a while, and I kept telling myself this was just nerves. Except nerves don't feel like being watched by someone who already read the ending of your story. I had kept the breakup quiet. That was a rule I made for myself. No vague posts, no late night rants, no private stories meant to hint at pain. I didn't want the internet touching it. What happened with the catfish felt too personal, too embarrassing, too tangled to explain out loud. I packed it up and told myself it was over. Meeting someone new felt like stepping onto thin ice. I wasn't excited, just curious enough to try. We matched on an app I barely checked anymore. His profile was normal in a forgettable way, which felt safe. No intense captions, no emotional oversharing. We talked for a bit. Jokes, boring work stuff, nothing deep. He didn't push, and that made me relax more than I wanted to admit. We met at a small place near a bus stop, the kind of cafe where everyone is half on their phone and half pretending not to be. I got there early and picked a seat near the window. I kept checking the door like I was waiting for a dentist appointment. He walked in, spotted me right away, and smiled like this was the first time he had imagined the moment. That thought didn't hit me until later. The first part of the conversation was fine. Normal even. The kind of small talk you can do on autopilot. I started to think I had worked myself up for nothing. Then he mentioned my breakup. Not carefully, not vaguely. He mentioned it like it was common knowledge. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might actually be sick. I felt heat rush to my face and my ears start ringing. I remember gripping the edge of the table to ground myself. He didn't ask if I wanted to talk about it. He didn't say he heard something through friends. He just referenced details. Specific ones. How long it dragged out. How it didn't end in a fight. How it left me tired instead of angry. How I blocked and unblocked more than once before it finally stuck. Things I never shared publicly. Things I barely shared privately. I asked how he knew all that, trying to keep my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. He looked genuinely confused by my reaction, like he thought this was a normal thing to bring up. He said he thought I told him already. I knew I did. The rest of the meet felt unreal, like I was sitting in my body but not fully connected to it. I nodded when it made sense to nod. I answered basic questions. I kept scanning his face, trying to find the moment where he would realize he said too much. He never did. When we left, the street felt too loud. Cars passing, people talking, the city moving on like nothing just cracked open inside me. I walked home instead of taking the bus, hoping the movement would shake the feeling loose. It did. The second I got back to my lib, I locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. I pulled out my phone and went straight to our messages. I read everything from the beginning, slow and careful. Nothing. No mention of my breakup. No opening for that level of detail. I checked my socials next. Every platform. Every post. Every comment. I had been careful. I always was. There was nothing there that explained what he knew. I messaged him later that night, asking again how he knew about my breakup. His reply came fast. Too fast. He said maybe I mentioned it on my profile before changing it. Said apps glitch sometimes and show old info. That did sit right. I went back to the app and checked my profile history. Nothing. I had never written about it. I remembered that clearly because I didn't want anyone knowing. Sleep didn't come easy that night. My brain kept replaying the way he said those details. Not like guesses, but like memories. The next morning, curiosity turned into something sharp and focused. I searched his username online. At first, nothing. Then I tried a slight variation. Different platform. Same photo. The account was older than the one I matched with. I clicked it. My chest tightened immediately. There were posts there about relationships, written in a calm, observational tone. Not personal confessions, more like commentary. One post described a breakup that felt uncomfortably familiar. The timeline, the emotional numbness, the way the person kept reopening the chat just to stare at it. That was me. Not my name, not my face, but my story. I scrolled further. My hands were shaking now. There were more posts like that. Different people, different situations, but one kept repeating. A long-running example broken up into updates. Each update matched a phase I remembered living through. The blocking, the second-guessing. The moment I finally deleted the app and felt nothing but relief mixed with shame. I sat on my bed staring at the screen, heart racing. I felt exposed in a way I couldn't put into words. It was like someone had taken my private thoughts and laid them out in public without ever saying my name. I kept digging, found a link in his bio to a private discussion space. It was hidden, just not advertised loudly. I clicked it before I could talk myself out of it. Inside were threads analyzing emotional recovery, attachment patterns, post-breakup behavior, examples. My example. I recognized my own words paraphrased, things I typed late at night to the catfish when I thought no one else would ever see them. My doubts, my guilt, my need to explain myself even when I knew it didn't matter. I felt sick. I realized then that he didn't just know about my breakup. He had studied it. The thought made my skin crawl. This wasn't gossip traveling through friends. This wasn't coincidence. This was information passed intentionally. From the catfish. My chest felt tight as everything connected. The timing, the tone, the way he reacted to me like he already knew what I needed to hear. Like he was following a script written specifically for me. I messaged him again, this time telling him I found his posts and that they felt too close to my life to be random. His reply took longer this time. When it came, it was calm and dismissive. He said people project. Said patterns repeat. Said maybe I was seeing myself in things that weren't about me. That line hit me hard. It was something the catfish used to say. Not the same words, but the same meaning. The same way of brushing off discomfort as imagination. I blocked him everywhere immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I sat on the floor of my live with my back against the couch, trying to slow my breathing. The next few days were quiet. No messages. No new matches. I started to think maybe that was the end of it. Then a message request came in from a new account. No photo, no posts. It mentioned my breakup. Not asking about it, referencing it like it was a shared memory. I blocked it without opening the full message. Another request came the next day. Different name, same tone, same familiarity with details I never shared. It felt like my past was following me forward, showing up ahead of me and people I hadn't even met yet. I shut everything down after that, deleted the app, locked my accounts, stopped replying to new people. The idea of someone already knowing me before I spoke made my chest tighten too much to ignore. Weeks passed. Things settled. But now, whenever I meet someone new and they respond a little too accurately to something I say, my stomach drops. I wonder what version of my story they already have. What details were traded without me knowing. What ending they expect. The worst part isn't that my breakup wasn't private. It's that I tried to move on, and the past showed up ahead of me, already unpacked, already understood, waiting like it never let me go. The night he said something was wrong, I felt it before I read it. That heavy drop in your stomach when your phone lights up at the wrong hour and you already know the message isn't going to be casual. I was half asleep, my look quiet except for the hum of the fridge, and I remember staring at the screen for a second too long before opening it, like that pause could change what was waiting. We had been talking for months by then. Not intense, not dramatic, just constant. He was part of my routine in a way that didn't feel dangerous. Morning messages, late night check-ins, random photos of nothing important. He said he lived far away, different state, different city, different everything. It made things simple, distant, safe. When I opened the message, it wasn't long. Just enough to say he was in trouble. Something medical. Sudden, scary. The kind of thing you don't fake because you don't want to invite that kind of attention into your life. My heart started racing immediately. I sat up in bed, fully awake now, reading it again and again. He said he was in the hospital. Said it happened fast. Said he didn't know who else to tell. I felt sick with worry. I replied right away. Asked what happened. Asked if he was okay. My hands were shaking as I typed. He didn't respond immediately, which made it worse. I kept refreshing the chat, my chest tight, imagining worst-case things I didn't want to think about. Then the photos came through. Hospital bed, white sheets, an eye pole in the corner, a wristband with his name partially visible. The lighting was harsh and flat, exactly how hospitals look in photos. There was even a blurry shot of a hallway, pale floors, and generic art on the wall. It felt real. I paced my live, foam clutched in my hand, trying to stay calm. I kept telling myself people don't fake this. Not like this. Not with photos. He said he was tired. Said responding might be slow. Said he was scared but trying to stay positive. That mix of vulnerability and distance hit hard. I wanted to help. Wanted to be there somehow, even though I couldn't physically be there. Over the next day, he sent more photos. Not many. Just enough to keep the story moving. A meal tray. A close-up of a monitor with numbers I didn't understand. A window shot with gray sky outside. I checked in constantly. He replied when he could. Everything felt fragile and serious. Something small started bothering me on the second day, but I ignored it at first. The wristband photo. I had glanced at it earlier, and now I looked closer. The name matched, but the formatting looked different from hospitals near where he said he lived. I told myself hospitals vary. That was nothing. Then he sent another photo of the hallway. This time, something clicked. There was a sign on the wall in the background, partially cut off, but visible enough. The font looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. Not the words, just the style, the color, the way it was mounted. My stomach tightened. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to accuse. I didn't want to jump to conclusions while someone was supposedly dealing with a medical emergency. I felt guilty even noticing. Later that night, when he said he was asleep, I went back to the photos. I zoomed in, stared at details I would have ignored before. The floor pattern, the wall trim, the emergency exit sign shape. It looked like a hospital I knew. Not near where he claimed to live. Near me. My heart started pounding. I told myself I was being paranoid. Hospitals look similar everywhere. That's what they're designed to do. But the feeling wouldn't go away. I saved one of the photos and did a reverse image search. Nothing came up directly. No exact matches. That didn't reassure me. I zoomed in on the window photo next. Outside, barely visible, was a building across the way. My chest felt tight. That building was in my city. I opened a map app and checked hospitals nearby. Scrolled through images. One hospital in particular had the same hallway art, the same wall color, the same sign style. I felt dizzy. I checked the timing of the photos. The weather outside the window matched the weather gear that day. Overcast. Gray. Same low clouds. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set the phone down for a second. My heart was racing, not just from fear, but from confusion. Why would he be here? He said he lived hundreds of miles away. I went back to our old chats, read them with new eyes. I didn't confront him right away. I waited until he messaged again, saying he was feeling a bit better. Relief washed over me automatically, followed immediately by dread. I asked casually how long he thought he'd be there. He answered vaguely, avoided specifics. I asked what hospital it was. He didn't answer for a long time. When he did, he named one in the city he claimed to live in. My stomach dropped. That hospital did not match the photos. I checked again. No matching art, no matching hallway, no matching window view. I sent him a screenshot of the hallway photo he had sent me and asked if it was definitely from that hospital. He said yes. That was when the fear shifted. It wasn't panic anymore. It was something colder. I took a screenshot of the hospital website for my city, the exact hallway art, the exact sign style. I didn't send it. I just stared at it, my chest tight, my thoughts racing. Why would he lie about where he was? Why fake being far away? Why use a hospital near me? My live suddenly felt smaller. The walls felt closer. I locked the door without realizing I had stood up. I finally told him what I noticed, not accusing, just stating that the photos looked like a hospital in my city. His reply came fast this time. He said I was mistaken, said hospitals share design elements, said stress was making me overthink. That word again, overthink. I sent him one of the comparison images anyway, side by side, hallway from his photo and hallway from the hospital website. There was no denying it. He went quiet. Minutes passed, then longer. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. My mind jumped to awful possibilities. What if he was nearby? What if this wasn't just lying? What if he wanted me to feel responsible? He finally replied. He said he didn't mean to scare me, said it was complicated, said he didn't want me to know he was closer because he was afraid I'd leave. That made my skin crawl. I asked why he would fake a medical emergency. He said he wasn't faking being sick, just exaggerating, said he needed care, said he needed attention. That wasn't better. I felt sick, angry, scared, all tangled together. I realized then how carefully this situation had been built, the vulnerability, the urgency, the photos meant to lock me into concern before I had time to question anything. And the fact that the hospital was here, in my city, near my live. I blocked him immediately. My hands were shaking as I did it. I locked everything down. Apps, socials, location sharing I didn't even remember turning on. For the rest of the night, every sound outside made me jump. Headlights passing the window made my heart race. I kept thinking about that window photo and how close it might have been taken to where I was sitting. The next morning, I searched his username again. Different platforms, different variations. I found another account. Same writing style, same tone. Recent post. It mentioned being in the hospital, thanking people for support, tagged with a location. My city. I felt cold all over. I reported the account, blocked it, shut my phone off and sat in silence for a long time. Nothing happened after that. No messages, no new accounts, no explanations. But the damage stayed. Now every time someone tells me they're far away, I feel a tight pressure in my chest. Every hospital photo online makes my stomach flip. Every late night message that feels urgent makes my hands shake. The worst part isn't that he lied about being sick. It's that he used a place meant for help and safety to get closer than he ever admitted, and that for a while I was worried about him, not realizing he might have been just a few streets away. The first time one of them disappeared, I didn't freak out. I didn't even notice right away. It was more like realizing a song stopped playing in the background after you've been humming it for hours. You only catch it when the silence gets too loud. I was scrolling through our group chat on the bus, half awake, and I saw a username that used to be everywhere was suddenly gray and blank like it had never belonged to a real person. I had been talking to him for months, but it never started as just him. That's what made it feel safe. It wasn't one random guy in my dim saying, "Trust me." It was a whole little online world he pulled me into, like I was joining a friend group that already existed and just happened to have space for me. I met him in a hobby community, one of those messy places where people post clips, argue, then act like best friends an hour later. He was funny and consistent, the kind of person who always had a reply that made you feel noticed. After a few days of chatting, he invited me to a private server. Said it was just some friends, nothing weird, just a place that felt calmer than the public chaos. I joined, and it instantly felt warm. People welcomed me like I wasn't new. They had nicknames for each other, inside jokes, little routines. One girl would post good morning memes. One guy always complained about his job in the same dramatic way. Someone else would drop random photos of their pets. It felt real because it was messy and boring sometimes, not curated. And I fell into it fast. It was nice having a place to open my phone and see a bunch of messages waiting. I didn't have that in real life. I had friends, but everyone was busy, and I always felt like I was bothering people if I texted too much. In this server, it was normal to talk all day. People popped in and out. Nobody acted like it was a big deal. He was the center of it without making it obvious. He replied to everyone, kept conversations going, tagged people to pull them in. He made it feel like a real group, not just in collecting attention. If I got quiet, someone else would check on me. If I had a bad day, 2 or 3 people would react. It felt like I mattered in a way I was used to. After a while, I stopped questioning anything. I started sharing more, not immediately, but in pieces. A rough week, family stuff. Old hurt I didn't talk about much. The group listened in that supportive online way, sending comfort and memes and long messages when I couldn't sleep. I told myself that this was what community was supposed to feel like. Then the slow shift started. It wasn't like someone snapped and got mean. It was quieter than that. One of the most active people, the girl with the morning memes, stopped posting. At first, I assumed she was busy. Everyone gets busy. A few days passed, then a week. Her name stayed in the member list, but she didn't talk. Another person went quiet too. The job complainer. Then the pet photo person. Little by little, the chat started thinning out. I asked if they were okay. He said they were just dealing with life stuff. People come and go. He said it casually, like it was normal and not worth stressing over. And I believed him because it was easier than worrying. But the timing was weird. It happened right when I started leaning on him more. I didn't plan it. It just happened. My real life got messy for a bit. School stress, sleep messed up, feeling lonely in that heavy way where your phone is the only thing that feels close. I started messaging him more than the group. He was always there, always replying, always saying the right thing. And the group got quieter. Eventually, it wasn't really a group anymore. It was me and him, plus a couple of others who would pop in once a day with short reactions. The jokes got old. The chat felt hollow. The server that used to feel crowded started feeling like an empty mall. I remember one night staring at the member list and realizing how many accounts had gone inactive at the exact same time. Not slowly over months like normal online drift. More like a switch flipped. I started checking profiles. Some were private, which was normal. Some had no posts, which was normal too. But the ones that bothered me were the ones that looked half-built. Like they had just enough detail to seem real, but not enough to have history. A couple had profile pictures that felt too clean, like stock images. Some had bios that sounded like the same person wrote them, just with different emojis. I tried not to spiral. I told myself I was overthinking because I was tired. Then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The way they typed. It wasn't identical, but there were little habits repeating. The same weird spacing, the same punctuation, the same phrases showing up in different mouths, like multiple people sharing one keyboard style. I started searching for older messages from each person, read them slowly, comparing the vibe. The morning meme girl used certain expressions that the pet photo person also used. The job complainer had the same pattern of ending sentences the same way as another account. It was subtle, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I tested it without meaning to. One day, I posted something vulnerable in the server, not tagging him, just dropping it in the chat like I used to. I waited to see who would respond. Nobody did. Then I messaged him privately a few minutes later, saying I was having a rough moment. He replied instantly, comforting, attentive, exactly what I needed. The server stayed silent. That was when it hit me that the group wasn't supporting me anymore. It was only him, and it had slowly become that without me noticing. I asked him if everyone was mad at me or something. He said no, said they were just busy, said I should stop worrying about people who don't show up and focus on who does. It sounded caring. It also sounded like a trap. The next day, one of the remaining accounts sent a short message in the server saying they were leaving the internet for a while. It was a clean little goodbye that it was copied from a template. A few minutes later, Another account reacted with a sad emoji and nothing else. And then both accounts went quiet. I checked their profiles again. The goodbye message was the last thing they ever posted. It felt staged. I started feeling the crawling unease every time I opened the server. The chat history was still there, all those months of jokes and support, but now it looked like a set after filming ended. Props left behind, lights off. I asked him directly in private if he knew any of them in real life. He said yes, some. He was vague. I asked which ones. He dodged the question. Said it didn't matter. That made it matter more. I tried messaging one of the accounts that had gone quiet just to check. No response. I tried another. No response. I tried the morning meme girl, the one who used to feel the most real to me. The message didn't deliver. Account deleted. My stomach dropped. I went through the server list and started clicking names. Deleted. 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 Not all of them, but enough that my hands started shaking. These weren't people going quiet. They were gone. I asked him what was happening. He replied like I was being dramatic, said people delete accounts all the time, said the internet is unstable, said I was letting my anxiety create stories. He said he was still there, and that should be enough. And I realized in that moment that it was designed to become just him. The group was the bait, the soft landing, the proof that he was some random guy because look, he has friends, he has a community, he has a whole world. Until I didn't need the world anymore because I was attached to him. Then the world disappeared. I started digging harder. I felt sick. I confronted him with that, not accusing, just saying I noticed something off. He didn't deny it. He changed tactics. He said some of them were his friends, but they liked privacy. He said some were alt accounts. He said some were people he used to know, but didn't talk to anymore. He gave a bunch of explanations that sounded reasonable individually, but together they felt like smoke. Then he said the line that made my chest go cold. He said the group was never really my business, and what mattered was us. Us. That word felt wrong because I realized I was choosing us. I was being funneled into it. I blocked him that night, not dramatically, just quietly, like turning off a light you don't trust. I left the server too. My hands were shaking as I hit leave. The second I did, the server vanished, like it never existed. I sat there staring at my blank screen, feeling like I had just stepped out of a room that was built around me and then removed the second I walked away. The next morning, I got a message request from a new account. No photo, no posts. It said it missed seeing me in the group. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I blocked it immediately. Another request came the next day from a different username, saying the server felt empty without me. I didn't reply. I blocked it too. I never went back to look for that server again. I don't even know if it still exists. Maybe it does, rebuilt with new names, waiting for someone else to join and feel welcomed and safe. Now, when someone invites me into a friend group online, I feel that tight pressure in my chest. I look at the member list. I look at how people type. I look for patterns. I hate that I do it, but I can't stop. Because I know what it feels like to think you found a crowd, only to realize it was just one person wearing different faces until you stopped needing the faces. I always thought hearing your own voice back was just awkward, like seeing a bad angle of yourself in a mirror. You cringe, you laugh it off, you move on. Nobody warns you about what happens when your voice comes back saying things you never said, in an order you never chose, with pauses placed exactly where you usually think. That kind of sound sticks to you. It crawls under your skin and sits there. It started on a regular night, nothing dramatic. I was in my live, lights off except for my foam glow, half lying on my bed scrolling without really seeing anything. My brain was tired in that dull way where everything feels flat. Then I got a message from an account I barely recognized. Not a friend, not a stranger, just someone I had talked to once in a group chat weeks earlier. They sent a file. No explanation, just a file. My chest tightened immediately. I don't know why. Something about unsolicited audio always feels more invasive than text. I stared at it for a full minute before tapping play. And then I heard myself. Not a recording I remembered. Not a voice note I had sent. It was me speaking clearly, calmly, responding to someone. Explaining something. Apologizing lightly. Reassuring. My hands went cold. I sat up, heart pounding, listening to the full clip. It was about 2 minutes long. My voice sounded exactly like it does in real life, not like the distorted version you usually hear in recordings. Every little habit was there. The way I paused before certain words. The way I softened sentences at the end. Even the way I breathed in when I'm choosing how to phrase something. But I had never said those sentences together. I knew that with absolute certainty. I replayed it, slower, listening for mistakes, for glitches, for anything that would prove it wasn't real. It was clean. Too clean. I messaged the person who sent it, asking where they got it. My fingers were shaking as I typed. They replied quickly, saying they thought I knew because it was clearly me. That made my stomach drop. I asked what they meant. They said they had a full conversation with me earlier that week and were confused why I was acting like it didn't happen. I felt dizzy. I told them I never talked to them one-on-one. They insisted I did. They said they recognized my voice instantly. Said it sounded natural, not generated or fake. They sent another file. Longer this time. I almost couldn't open it. My chest felt tight, like I wasn't getting enough air, but I did anyway. This one was worse. It sounded like an actual back and forth conversation, except only my voice was included. Sentences stitched together to respond to questions I couldn't hear. My tone shifted naturally, like I was reacting in real time. At one point, my voice even laughed softly, the same little breathy laugh I always do without thinking. I felt sick. I stopped the audio halfway through and just stared at my wall, heart racing. My brain was scrambling to find explanations that did involve something deeply wrong. I had been talking to her for months. That's where the voice notes came from. She loved them. Said she preferred hearing me talk instead of reading long messages. I didn't think much of it. I send voice notes to friends all the time. It's easier, more personal. Now that personal thing felt like a weapon. I went back through our chat history immediately, read everything. Every voice note. Every moment she encouraged me to talk instead of type. How she sometimes asked me to repeat things if there was background noise. How she asked clarifying questions that made me explain my thoughts slowly and clearly. I realized she wasn't listening. She was recording. I confronted her without accusing at first, just asking if she knew anything about my voice being shared. She replied calmly, saying she had no idea what I was talking about and that maybe someone was trying to mess with me. That response felt wrong. I sent her a screenshot with the audio file names. My name was right there, dated, organized. She didn't reply for a long time. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. My thoughts spiraled. I imagined my voice being used in places I couldn't see. Conversations I never had. Promises I never made. When she finally replied, she didn't deny it. She said she only used parts I had already shared. Said she never changed my voice, just rearranged it. Said she didn't see the harm because it was still me. That sentence made my skin crawl. I asked why. She said people trusted familiar voices more than strangers. Said my voice felt safe. Said it helped people open up. I felt like I was going to throw up. I asked how many people had heard it. She said she didn't keep count. That was worse than a number. I blocked her immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I thought that would end it. It didn't. The next day, I got another message. Different person. Different platform. They said they were confused because I sounded upset in our last conversation, and now I was pretending nothing happened. They attached an audio clip. My voice. This one sounded apologetic, like I was trying to smooth something over, like I was taking responsibility for something I didn't even know about. I felt cold all over. I replied explaining I was being impersonated, that my voice was being used without my permission. They didn't believe me. Why would they? The audio sounded real, too real. I started searching for myself online, typing my username variations into forums, scrolling through threads until my eyes hurt. I found one. A post thanking me for listening. The person described how my voice helped them through a rough night, how I stayed calm, how I reassured them. They quoted phrases I recognized as things I say often. I had never talked to them. My chest felt tight. I realized then that this wasn't just impersonation. It was replacement. I was being inserted into situations I never agreed to be part of. I deleted all my old voice notes, wiped backups, cleared cloud storage. It felt frantic and pointless, like trying to scoop water out of a sinking boat with my hands. I changed usernames, locked accounts, stopped sending any audio messages at all. Still, the clips kept popping up. Not constantly, just enough to remind me it was over. A short one sent to me anonymously, my voice saying something gentle, something comforting. No context. Just dropped into my inbox like a threat. Weeks passed before it slowed down. I don't know if she got bored or moved on, or just found someone else with a voice that fit better. I don't know if the files are still out there being passed around. What I do know is that hearing my own voice doesn't feel the same anymore. It doesn't feel like me. It feels like something that can be taken apart and reused. Sometimes, when I'm alone in my live and the room is quiet, I catch myself practicing sentences out loud and then stopping halfway through, realizing how easily those words could be lifted and rearranged. The worst part isn't that someone copied my voice. It's that they learned how I think while I'm speaking and use that to make me sound real in moments I was never there for. I used to think the worst part of getting fooled online was the embarrassment. That hot, sinking feeling when you realize you trusted someone who never existed the way you thought they did. I was wrong. Embarrassment fades. What stays is the moment when you realize you were never even the point of it. You were just a space where someone learned how to get better. I met her during a stretch of my life where I was lonely enough to be desperate, just open enough to be careless. It felt important at the time, like I was choosing connection instead of hiding. She showed up in my messages slowly, naturally, replying to a comment I made and then sticking around without trying too hard. Nothing intense. Nothing that screamed danger. She felt normal in the way that makes you lower your guard. We talked every day, but not all day. She didn't flood me with attention. She asked about my routines, remembered details, checked in when I mentioned stress. It felt balanced, healthy. I remember thinking how refreshing it was to talk to someone who didn't rush things. Over time, I shared more. Not everything, but enough. Stories from my past. Insecurities I didn't usually type out. Moments I still didn't know how to categorize. She reacted perfectly. Never too much, never dismissive. She validated without making me feel fragile. I trusted her because she made trust feel reasonable. Looking back, I see how controlled it all was. The first weird moment didn't feel big. She asked questions that felt slightly technical, like she was curious about how I reacted instead of what I felt. I brushed it off. Some people are just analytical. I didn't want to read into it. Then came the little tests. Moments where she would pull back slightly to see if I noticed. Delayed replies. Bait messages. I always noticed. I always adjusted. I didn't realize I was being measured. The dynamic slowly shifted without a clear line. I started caring more about how she felt and how I did. I second-guessed my reactions. I tried to be calmer, clearer, easier to understand. She praised me for that, said it made conversations smoother. I thought we were growing closer. Then she started slipping up. Small things at first, referencing reactions I didn't remember having yet, predicting how I would respond before I did, saying things like she knew me well enough to guess my next thought. It made me feel seen, but also slightly off balance, like she was always a step ahead. I asked once how she got so good at reading people. She said practice. That word sat weird in my chest, but I ignored it. The unraveling didn't happen during a fight or a dramatic reveal. It happened on a quiet night when I was tired enough to stop protecting my own feelings. She sent a long message that felt different from her usual tone. Less careful, more direct. She said there was something I should know. My stomach dropped immediately. What followed wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a confession in the emotional sense. It was an explanation laid out cleanly, like someone describing a process they perfected. She told me she had started talking to me because of who I was. She started because I fit a profile she was working with. Not in a creepy stalker way, she clarified, but in a testing way. She needed someone responsive but not volatile, open but not reckless, someone who would engage without pushing too hard. Someone like me. She explained that I was the end goal. I was the rehearsal, the space where she learned timing, phrasing, emotional pacing. She tracked what worked, what didn't, when to reassure, when to pull back, how much vulnerability to mirror, when silence created more attachment than attention. My hands were shaking as I read it. She said she had multiple conversations like ours in the past, but this one went further. She sounded almost proud of that, said I was consistent, adaptable, easy to learn from. Easy. I felt cold all over. She told me she wasn't doing it to hurt anyone. She framed it like research, like skill building. She said real targets were different, more resistant, harder to keep engaged. She needed to refine her approach before moving on. I asked why she was telling me now. She said because she was done. Done with me. She had learned what she needed. I sat there staring at my phone, my chest tight, my thoughts racing in every direction. I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner, angry that she would talk about it so casually, and sick at how methodical it all sounded. She went on. She explained moments I remembered vividly, reframed as checkpoints. Times when I thought we were connecting, reframed as data. The night I opened up about something deeply personal, she described as a breakthrough moment because my response matched her prediction. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I just sat there numb, reading every word like I needed to understand it fully for it to stop hurting. She told me I shouldn't take it personally, said I wasn't weak or foolish, said I did exactly what most people do when they feel heard. She said that was the point. I felt like my insides were being cataloged. She mentioned others, not by name, just references. Earlier runs that failed. People who got suspicious too fast. People who didn't engage deeply enough. She said I was one of the better ones. That made my stomach turn. I asked if any of it was real, if she ever actually cared. She said care was the right word. She said she was invested in the process, and I was part of that process. I blocked her after that, not dramatically, not with the final message, just blocked. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the floor of my live afterward, phone face down like it was radioactive. The silence that followed was relief. It was hollow. For days, everything felt fake. Memories replayed in my head with new meaning. Jokes that now felt scripted. Comfort that now felt strategic. Moments I thought were mutual now felt one-sided, like I was reacting to a mirror she controlled. I kept wondering how much of myself I gave away without realizing it. Not just information, but patterns. Emotional habits. The ways I soften, the ways I hesitate, the ways I reach out when I feel distance. Those things felt stolen. I checked her profile days later out of weakness. It was gone. Username unavailable. Like it had never existed. That scared me more than if it had stayed. Because that meant she moved on. Somewhere else, someone else was probably getting the perfected version. The version sharpened using my reactions, my trust, my openness. I thought about reporting it, but I didn't even know how to explain it without sounding unhinged. There was no scam, no money, no threats, just psychological trespassing that left no obvious marks. I tried to talk to friends about it, but the words came out wrong. Saying you were a training exercise for someone who studies people doesn't land easily. It sounds dramatic, exaggerated. I stopped trying after a while. What stayed with me was the realization that nothing I did was spontaneous. It was all anticipated, guided, allowed. I wasn't chosen because of who I was, but because of how I would likely behave. That messes with your head in a quiet way. Now, when I talk to new people online, I notice things I wish I did. How they pace replies, how they react to vulnerability, how often they ask clarifying questions instead of responding emotionally. I don't know if it's intuition or damage, but I can't turn it off. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about me at all. If I was just another folder, another set of notes, another successful trial. Or if she ever remembers that I was a person, not a project. I don't think she does. The worst part isn't that I was fooled. It's that I was useful. that my real feelings helps someone else get better at being unreal.